Good evening. I would like to call to order this regular meeting of the Encinitas City Council for Wednesday, April 10th, 2024, and we are convening at 6 p.m. If the clerk would please call the roll.
Councilmember Lyons?
Here.
Councilmember Ayler?
Here.
Councilmember Hinsey?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Blackwell?
Here.
Mayor France?
Here.
Record will show that all members of the City Council are present this evening.
Okay, thank you. And if you'd all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are going to start tonight's meeting with not one, not two, but three proclamations. So bear with me and enjoy. These are all very worthy causes that we are going to recognize. And the first one we are going to present is a San Diego County Fair proclamation. And Tristan Hallman is here somewhere. There's Tristan and Cynthia Brandenburg. If you could come join us up here. Cynthia's been very active in the 4-H, and Alevenheim, she is the Tony Brandenburg's wife, who unfortunately passed away not long ago, but they have been very active out in Alevenheim with 4-H and the animals, and it is always fun to recognize the fair. I, too, was once hanging around the livestock yards with my siblings who had pigs and steers, and I also worked as an employee of Crutchfield Concessions. So had Lloyd's roast beef and tossed around a whole bunch of empty beer kegs and replaced them with full beer kegs. So that was back in my much younger days when I could lift that, but couldn't do it anymore. But the fair is coming up, and it's an annual opportunity to get out and appreciate all of the things that San Diego County has to offer, and especially as it relates to both the livestock area as well as crafts. It's always great to see the photo show, the woodworking. There's just a ton of stuff that you can go see. And I'm going to read this proclamation, which will most likely list many of those things that I'm trying to talk about. So. Whereas the San Diego County Fair, produced by the 22nd District Agricultural Association, is the region's biggest celebration. While it is hosted annually at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, it serves the entire county, including the city of Encinitas, just a few miles north. And whereas the San Diego County Fair first began in 1880, while it has evolved and changed names and locations over the years, the San Diego County Fair has continued to serve as a gathering place for San Diegans to have fun, dine together, listen to music, enjoy rides and games, see live entertainment, and learn about agriculture and the world around them. And whereas the San Diego County Fair provides opportunities for local small businesses, farmers, landscapers, gardeners, artists, crafters, woodworkers, photographers, collectors, and others to showcase their wares and talents. The fair helps promote San Diego County and brings area businesses, families, neighbors, and diverse communities closer together in a festive atmosphere. And whereas the San Diego County Fair forms key partnerships with groups such as nonprofits, schools, sponsors, and youth development organizations to make the annual festivities more equitable, more educational, and more exciting for young people. Student Showcase, Best of K through 6, the Junior Livestock Show, Plant, Grow, Eat, Fair for All, Kids Days, and Care and Share Toy Drive are some of the programs that are a result of great partnerships between the San Diego County Fair and the San Diego County community. Whereas residents of the city of Encinitas participate in the San Diego County Fair as exhibitors, performers, concessionaires, and vendors, local schools also take part in the Plant, Grow, Eat program. And whereas Donnie Butts of the Encinitas Fire Department won the Burn Institute's 30th and 31st annual Fire and Safety Expo and Firefighter Demolition Derby at the San Diego County Fair in 22 and 23. The event, held annually at the fair, helps raise money for the nonprofit, which helps burn survivors and educating people on fire prevention. And whereas Encinitas residents are able to easily visit the fair using the city's train station, thanks to the Fair Tripper, a combination of Fair and North County Transit District coaster ticket and free shuttle service from Solana Beach Station. And whereas the San Diego County Fair runs from June 12th through the July 7th, except for Mondays and Tuesdays, providing 20 days of fun, family, food, adventure, entertainment, educational opportunities for residents of Encinitas and other San Diego County communities. And we're getting to the end here. Whereas the 2024 San Diego County Fair's theme is Let's Go Retro, focusing on the era of the 1950s to the 1990s, a period of time that saw Encinitas grow from a sparsely populated rural town to a vibrant coastal community of more than 60,000 residents. And it's my understanding that Eki Ranch is part of the Let's Go Retro and will be in the agricultural area there. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Tony Kranz, Mayor of the City of Encinitas, along with all the City Council members, do hereby proclaim June 12th, 2024 as San Diego County Fair Day in the City of Encinitas and recognize the San Diego County's Fair's long-standing significance to our diverse communities and the City of Encinitas' connection to this cherished tradition. And that I will present to you. Thank you.
Sure. Well, Mayor, thank you so much for this honor. Thank you to the City Council, City staff. This is a great honor, and you're a real trooper for reading through all of that. I think when we talk about Let's Go Retro, I think now the beginning of this meeting is probably retro because it took so long. But we really appreciate it. As the mayor mentioned, we're very excited to have the fair June 12th through July 7th this year. It'll be 20 days. Every day is open except Mondays and Tuesdays, so Wednesdays through Sundays. Hope to see everyone in this room there. We hope to see all the people of Encinitas there. Encinitas is one of our cities that, at least from our data, is overrepresented. Not overrepresented in terms of please come to the fair, but overrepresented in terms of the share of the population that comes down. And we know we're close by. We love walking through the exhibits and seeing, everyone from all of the names on all of the blue ribbon winners. You'll see a lot from Encinitas there. So we really pride ourselves on serving the entire county. We are at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, but it is a county fair, and Encinitas is a big part of that. And
Okay, well, didn't expect that, but for years, you know, agriculture has been a big part of the fair, and my favorite part, you know, from when I was growing up, and it still is. And I just like staying involved to try to keep agriculture and learning about how livestock and crops shape our lives. And that's about all I can.
Thank you, Ranch. And I don't know if there's still a field day that takes place where the kids get to practice showing their animals, but it's really been historically a really important part of learning and growing here in Encinitas.
I could say a little more about the field day.
Yeah.
I don't think, I may have accidentally hit a button on here before, but
Yep.
is it on? Okay.
We'll push it again.
That, okay. I don't believe there's any field days like that anymore. It has been a struggle to keep 4-H thriving in the county. And, but I remember going to one of the 4-H field days at the Ecky Ranch when I was a kid. And I'm still trying to find the picture somewhere of me and my whites getting my goat, my dairy goat, out of the trunk of my mother's Buick. So that's one of my great memories of 4-H and then also the Ecky involvement.
Well, I appreciate it. I think, is the popcorn from? No, there's some popcorn behind our dais here. Oh, that's somebody else. Okay, never mind. Although there's plenty of popcorn at the fair, I know there is. Yep. Okay, so maybe we can get a quick. Okay. Real quick before we do this next one, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I got to do this morning. Today at Miracosta College, we had a presentation, Rising Stars, and these 5 students, those 5 young people in the middle there with their certificates on display, are part of a Chamber of Commerce program that recognizes outstanding students at all of the schools in the San Diego Union High School District. So there is Torrey Pines represented, San Diego is represented, Sunset High School, Canyon Crest Academy, and La Costa Canyon. So it was really amazing to listen to these young people talk about all of their accomplishments and all of the obstacles that they've overcome. And it was, I think, fitting to have been able to participate in this presentation this morning when tonight I'm going to invite Jeff Zevely to come up here. And he, too, we are honoring him tonight as an inductee into the San Diego Alumni Hall of Fame. And it's likely that one day these young people may be up being recognized for something similar. Jeff, as you may know, is a TV guy. And as I pointed out yesterday, he's got the face for TV. I've got the face for radio, right? But he is a member of the class of 1988 at San Diego and has had a distinguished career that I'm going to read a little bit about, and I'm going to ask him to say a few words. Whereas the spirit of San Diego Academy thrives on the principle of once a Mustang, always a Mustang, and whereas Jeff Zevely a distinguished alumnus of San Diego, embodies the essence of Mustang pride and excellence. And whereas Jeff has showcased his unwavering dedication to uplifting the community through his esteemed role as a host of the Zevely Zone on CBS, illuminating the stories of the remarkable individuals and places in and around San Diego. And whereas Jeff's roots in San Diego trace back to his birth at the Naval Hospital in Balboa Park in 1970, and his formative years spent in Encinitas attending Capri Elementary School and Oak Crest Middle School, and being a resident of Leucadia. And whereas Jeff's athletic and academic achievement at San Diego High School, culminating in his recognition as the Student Athlete of the Year in 1988, exemplify the values of dedication and excellence instilled by the Mustang community. And whereas Jeff continued his pursuit of excellence at the University of California, Santa Barbara, where he excelled both academically and athletically, earning accolades for his skills as a volleyball setter and graduating with a degree in law and society with an emphasis in criminal justice in 1993. And whereas Jeff's journey in journalism, marked by his tenure as a crime reporter in Albuquerque, led him to find love and companionship in his wife, Heather, with whom he shares a blissful marriage of 21 years and two wonderful daughters, Brianne and Addison. And whereas Jeff has carried on the legacy of storytelling set forth by the late Larry Himmel, enriching the lives of San Diegans through his heartfelt reporting and the establishment of the beloved Zevely Zone in May 2015, and whereas Jeff's philanthropic endeavors, including his contributions to organizations such as Elder Help, Doors of Change, and Miles for Melanoma, exemplify his commitment to giving back to the community that has embraced him with warmth and support. And whereas Jeff's resilience in overcoming adversity, including his triumphant battle against melanoma, serves as an inspiration to all who face challenges with courage and determination. And whereas Jeff's fond memories of his beloved Encinitas teachers and his enduring connection to the community reflect his profound impact on the lives of those around him. Now therefore I, Tony Kranz, Mayor of the City of Encinitas, along with all council members, proclaim that Jeff Zevely is hereby honored and celebrated for his outstanding contributions to San Diego, the San Diego community, and beyond. May his legacy of compassion, resilience, and storytelling continue to inspire future generations of Mustangs and serve as a beacon of hope and positivity for all.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much, and City Council members, what an honor. Thank you so much. I remember when this building was the Mayfair supermarket. And my wife woke me up this morning and said, even though you're a Hall of Famer, you still need to do all the dishes and mow the lawn. So I've been humbled. My family moved to Leucadia from Lemon Grove in 1976. And my parents like to say that on that day, they bought this lot up on Sedonia, and it was so foggy you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. So a week later, after the realtor promised them, it has an ocean view, we came back on a beautiful sunny day, and there it was, a panoramic ocean view. My parents built a house, and it was like a magic trick. Suddenly, I was learning how to surf at Beacons, eating sandwiches at Sub Palace, eating tacos at Carina's and La Especial Norte, and I had a magical, amazing childhood here in Encinitas. I went to Capri Elementary, Oak Crest Middle School, and San Diego, as you now know. And I just want to tell you that when I was at San Diego, I mentioned it yesterday, that Jerry Coleman, the legendary broadcaster from the Padres, came to San Diego and spoke to my class with just 30 students, and that was the day a light bulb came on, and I thought, hey, maybe I could do this broadcasting gig. So later on, I ended up at Channel 8 with Bruce Patch and Larry Himmel, and it's just been a great ride. So in the Zevely Zone, we really do try to reach out into the community. We tell good news stories every night. When people are down, we try to lift them up. And I just want to tell you that we're fighting for viewers to stay engaged. And if you're in this room right now, you're part of the solution. You care about city government. You care about how water gets to your house, who pays the deputies, who pays the firefighters. All of these things are so critical for democracy. So thank you so much for being part of the solution. And with that, I just want to say that I will always be an Encinitas resident at heart. Consider me a friend for life, and this is an amazing honor. Thank you so much.
Would the family like to come up for a picture? Come on up for the picture.
This John guy is a really good reporter.
Okay. Who's working with you, Steve? Come on up.
Well, after you retired, I had to start shooting my own stuff. Oh, is it free? No, it's good.
Okay, one more, and that is in recognition of Arbor Day. We're going to present a proclamation. I will make this one very short. If the Arbor Day celebrants could come up, I would appreciate it. There's Sylvester Mabry, he's the Director of Public Works, Linda Schneider, UFAC, Arbor Day Planning Group, Melissa Lane from Public Works, Isaac Ontiveros, West Coast Arborist, Mike Palat, West Coast Arborist, Donna Trotter, Arbor Day Planning Group, Brian Sandlin, Parks, John Ugrob, Public Works, Jared Elmore, Public Works, Philip Horn, Public Works, Rachel Sale, Public Works, Carol Parker is part of the Arbor Day Planning Group, and Chris Kalstrand is our city arborist, and he is works for Dudek. Yes, Dudek. So. We do this every year because in Encinitas here, we really love our urban forest. And we invest a lot of money in maintaining the urban forest. And a little bit later, we're going to have a presentation about that work that we do. But for now, I'm going to make this Arbor Day proclamation, which says, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morgan proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is celebrated nationally in April to encourage Americans to maintain and replenish our country's orchards and woodlands. And whereas in California, we observe Arbor Day in recognition of famed horticulturalist Luther Burbank, a native from Massachusetts, who brought experimental plant breeding to California. His life's labor produced hundreds of plants and trees that have contributed to the natural splendor and food production in our state. And whereas trees provide shade and beautify our homes, neighborhoods, and communities, increase property values, enhance economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and are enjoyed by everyone. And whereas trees decorate our landscapes with rich colors, textures, and shapes, and they provide vital stability to our ecosystem by improving water and air quality, provide habitats for animals and plant life, prevent flooding and erosion, and whereas in Encinitas, trees are highly regarded and valued by the community, and wherever they are planted are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Therefore, I, Tony Kranz, Mayor of the City of Encinitas, along with all council members, proclaim April 13th, 2024 as Arbor Day in the City of Encinitas. And I'd like Sylvester to say a few words about our celebration.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this proclamation. This year's Arbor Day event will be Saturday, April 13th at Encinitas Community Park from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. We plan on planting about 50 trees 51 trees. And we're going to have vendors there at the event, so it should be a great day. Please join us. I have representatives up here from the team. It's a teamwork to manage the urban forest. There's about 23,000 trees within our urban forest, and it's an annual, daily, hourly process to maintain our trees, and we care for our community. So I want to thank the team for their commitment to our urban forest.
And I would point out that if you're interested in coming and helping, the hard work is already done. Usually the holes have been dug, right? The only thing we do is we provide shovels, and you put the soil back in once we put the plat in there. So, and you'll learn a little bit about maintaining the urban trees in your yard, so you're all welcome to join us. Okay, if we could get a picture. I don't know if the council wants to join us. Come on over.
Okay, ready? Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you. With that, we will move on to oral communications.
Mayor, we do have several. Just a reminder, oral communications is the time for individuals to speak on items that are not listed on the agenda. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. First 3 speakers, Raul Villamar, Sandra Anderson, and then Kelly McCormick.
My name is Raul Villamar. I've been coming here for a long time for the parking downtown and everything else. Well, now I have a new little thing that I have is the bags that are being left on my parking lot from the dispensaries. You have all these people parking in my lot, going across, running across the street, coming back with bags, white bags, blue bags, and tan bags. Now, is there somebody that's supposed to be watching these people? The security, they said security. What kind of security do they have over there? I know that I bounced for 30 years. I have a degree in criminal justice. And the people down there, I don't know if they have anybody that is watching these people. Today I have pictures on my phone. You know I like to take pictures. That when they come around the corner, the brick wall right there is now a smoking area for all these people that were coming there. I have one that I was just coming up to the meeting that was sitting there and he's smoking, and he saw me taking a picture of him. I don't know if he was homeless or not, but he had dreadlocks on there and he ran away. I got his picture. The next person down sat down. I know he's homeless. He sat down and started smoking. How is he getting into his IDs and stuff like that? Are they selling to them? That's against the law, isn't it? I remember doing that. You can't sell alcohol to somebody who's intoxicated or somebody that's somebody like him. Okay, so what are we going to do? I'm going to start collecting these bags and I'm going to bring them in. How many bags did you folks want? There's a blue bag, a tan bag, and a white bag. I would like to get an answer from you folks. I know you guys can't answer me now, but maybe some other time. Okay? Thank you very much.
My name is Sandra Anderson, and I live at 237 Via Palacio. And I just wanted to let you guys know that I got this notification in the mail from the Development Services Department. And I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but I just learned the resort apartment complex is going to be converting 2 of their laundry rooms that are on their property into ADUs. So one currently is in the approval process, and I'm within the zone or the noticing thing, and that's why I got this paper in the mail, and my neighbors did too. The second one is coming. It's not going to be a low-income unit at all. I checked with Sarah at the planning department, and so you're not going to get any regional housing needs allocation credit for these 2 ADUs that are going in. I talked to Sarah, who's the associate planner at the city, and her name's on this letter, and she informed me that this will be approved because it is the state code. It meets the state code. It's not coming to city council or planning commission at all. It doesn't need to. And I'm just here to let you know that this is happening and that this is an impact of state law on our communities. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Kelly McCormick, followed by Scott Campbell, and then Tim Bratton.
Good evening. This is Kelly McCormick. I'm a public health educator with San Diego Alliance for Drug-Free Youth. And I'm here tonight to advocate for an ordinance requiring that all multi-unit housing properties in Encinitas be 100% smoke-free and vape-free. This is currently the law in 82 California cities, and our neighbor Carlsbad will consider a smoke-free multi-unit housing ordinance next month. This move has a lot of support. According to a recent survey shared by the County of San Diego's Live Well office, nearly 70% of Californians answered positively that apartment complexes should require all units to be tobacco, smoke-free, and vape-free. Even 61% of renters said they supported a ban on smoking inside units. Secondhand smoke seeps through windows, doorways, ventilation systems, electrical outlets, and the residue sticks to virtually everything, from children's toys to carpeting, drapes, and furniture. There is no safe level of secondhand smoke. Children who are exposed are more likely to suffer from sudden infant death syndrome, bronchitis, pneumonia, ear infections, and asthma attacks. Adults are more likely to develop lung cancer, heart disease, and breathing problems. There is plenty of help available for implementing and developing a smoke-free ordinance that would be both fair and effective. The Environmental Commission, which did great work on the city's smoke-free outdoor public places ordinance, would be a good place to begin a review to further explore the environmental, health, and safety aspects of smoke-free living spaces. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, good evening, Council. My name is Scott Campbell. I live in Encinitas District 1. And I asked the Council to consider breaking up our election districts and re-getting the historic 5 Encinitas districts. It's so confusing. I'm going to talk about some stuff that I didn't write this stuff, but I'm going to read it because it's very applicable. This is election season. All kinds of people have stories they've gathered of an active general population, craving more support for walkable streets, more open space enhancements, community gardens, healthy air, oceans, wetlands, and our urban forest. Despite Encinitas Council having 5 seats, there has been a majority voting bloc for many years that acts as in lockstep to silence minority voices, dissenting views, and diverse alternatives. For many years, it was a 5-0 status quo. For a year now, it has been a 4-1 supermajority. We need change. These mighty majority act like theirs is a fragile platform. This is deferring to all the state and all this stuff. The majority on the council, remember, I didn't write this. The majority on the council has turned a deaf ear to countless community character concerns of diverse nature. Development at all costs seems the guiding theme, regardless of presentation or packaging du jour. The new debt puts us at risk of not being able to address future needs, such as stormwater drainage adequately. If we wanted to undertake a major capital project to address flooding, we don't have the borrowing flexibility. Changes in city policy and municipal codes are just the latest in the council administration policies being reshaped and rewritten over the years to keep the public tightly controlled and gagged. For credibility, it is important to show a whole series of acts to waste the people's time, the public's money, for stage antics to silence dissent, marginalize minority decisions, and control outcome at council meetings. All of these things are to codify, make legal injustice and bullying behavior of the majority. Hours and hours of council time, public backlash, council deliberations, i.e. rationalizations, is used to create controversy and confusion. Does anybody know who said that? Mayor, you should. You really should. This is from 2012. This was Lisa Schaefer that said all this. All these things apply today. Now, Mayor, would you please ask Jennifer Campbell if commission meetings operate under the same rules as council meetings?
You're going to finish up. I'm not going to ask any questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker is Tim Bratton, followed by Ellen Burr, Donna Peterson, and then Elena Thompson.
Video. Cue that up in about 30 seconds or so. I can get started. Good evening, Mayor Kranz and Council. I'm Tim Bratton. I've been, Encinitas has been my home for 50 years, and I love it here. And I like that the city is doing ADUs. I think that's a good idea. I like ADUs. We need more affordable housing. And I also understand that the setbacks are reduced for the ADUs to 4 feet from the property line, and the height is limited to 16 feet. However, and garages are limited to 12 feet or 14 feet, and they also have a reduced setback too. Is the video starting? But there's a loophole. When you can put, and I heard the city had debated this, and they decided to go ahead and allow an ADU to be on top of a garage. But when you do that, what happens, you get a structure that's just a couple of feet from the property line, and it's essentially the same height as the building, as the normal home, which would normally have a height restriction of like 27 feet or so. So here's one. This one is essentially 27 feet tall. It's just a few feet from the property line, and the way it's constructed, it pretty much just obliterates the homeowner above them. It obliterates their view. So what we've noticed is that the neighbors are very upset, and we have a lot of people coming by because apparently this is one of the first ones in the city that's been built this close to a property line where the ADU is on top of the garage. And we're getting a lot of developers and contractors coming by going, how'd they get away with that? Apparently, this is all up to code. It's because of the reduced setback of the garage and the reduced setback of the ADU, and essentially no height restrictions anymore. So I think there's going to be a backlash against ADUs because I think there's going to be explosions of ones like this. If we have height limits or they have a setback requirement, it'd be fine. But in this case, it's like the worst of both worlds. So just want to let you know, you might not have seen this, but I prefer to make sure that we adjust the rules so this doesn't keep happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellen Burr, followed by Donna Peterson, and then Elena Thompson.
Good evening, Council. This has some slight relationship to 11A, but it's a holistic view of the situation. Unfortunately, I couldn't be here at the last meeting. In the budget proposals, there was, the engineer asked for funds for a slope evaluation on Manchester. 11A specifically deals with things that are going on in that slope or above whatever they have determined is the city's bailiwick. There's also the K-rail, which runs along there. So we're talking about less than 100 yards probably from the sewage district plant around to the intersection of San Alejo and Manchester. And I really think that the whole thing needs to be looked at the same time, and that includes, I'm sorry, the signage at the intersection, because whatever is worked out and needs to be done, I don't see how you wouldn't end up going back and having to redo things. So I think it's really important. The engineer, I don't believe, would have asked for money if she didn't think it was important. So please look into funds so that they can figure out what they can do with the slope as a whole, because they'll probably get the emergency to take care of the houses that may be falling in. We don't need to be buying any more multi-million-dollar homes. But there's also the slope that's underneath that when it closes off Manchester, a major intersection, it'll only take a day probably to clear it, but still, it's not something we should be doing and instead spending money on some of the things we're talking about spending money on. And in furtherance of that, there was also a request to look for the drainage issue on San Alejo and Manchester. And I think they deserve funds for that, because I'm pretty sure at the spot where there was a sinkhole and a blowout about 10 years ago at the foot of Dublin, it's already subsiding. So if you ran one of your special void-seeking machines over it, I think you would see it was already going down, and that would be even worse if that blew out again. So please, let's prioritize in your budget meeting what we really need to spend money on, because the sign, I kind of feel like El Guapo and his gang. We don't need no signs. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Peterson. I'm a 33-year resident of Leucadia, and I want to speak for just a moment about Beacon's Beach access. As you know, ground movement has caused the trail to be closed once again, and I understand it's going to be opening relatively soon. But I'm really looking for a permanent solution to the Beacon's Beach access. And very often I hear people say that Leucadia residents don't want that we like things the way they are. And I just want to say that I know a lot of people, and that's not what I hear. I hear we want beach access. And maybe we have nostalgia for the sweet little trail that we walked down for years and years, but that doesn't supersede wanting access to our neighborhood beach. And if we could have a nice stairway like Grandview or Stone Steps or whatever, that would be preferable than having the ground slip and close Beacons again for months. And I totally understand why that has to happen, but I don't think that's the solution that the majority of Leucadian residents want. We want access. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Elena Thompson, 35-year Leucadia resident. I'm here to talk about the homeless situation in Encinitas, and I wanted to just bring to your attention to try to help you in your policy making that the state of California has thus far spent over $24 billion of taxpayer money to try to combat the homeless problem. And the state of California actually has 180,000 homeless people that they've counted in the state. And these numbers are up. While other states in the nation, their numbers have come down, it seems they've all moved here, or these are some of Gavin Newsom's prison release people that have increased the numbers in the state. But in addition to the state, there was a report out today in the San Diego Union that the recent audit on the county reflects that the county has spent $218 million on homelessness. The reason I bring this to your attention is that audits are revealing that there's really been no meaningful tracking of revenue, spending, the effectiveness of homelessness programs, and any performance measures on behalf of the state, the county, and maybe even our city. We hope not. The key point, however, is that these programs seem to be, the compassion policies and enabling policies seem to be making this problem worse. And so my key point in coming before you tonight is to encourage our city to not be like the state and not be like the county and not be like other failed cities where their homeless numbers have grown. They've affected public safety, our ability to live our lives and enjoy our downtowns. It's a flashing light warning you yet again. So, I have heard past sheriffs say that Encinitas CRC operating in our downtown is in fact a magnet for the homeless. And they've said that. I mean, I've heard that over the years. And I tend to agree with that. And this is why I scratch my head. I'm wondering why the city is allowing the CRC to expand in our downtown. We're doing other things to try to combat the homeless problem, and yet we're allowing this major charity who's giving out free food, not tracking IDs, and looking at criminal records to operate unregulated in our downtown. Okay, and then the city's giving them money to do so, taxpayer money from our general fund as well, and we're giving less money to the Chamber of Commerce and our main streets to try to promote economic development. So I'm just finding paradoxes in our policies that I'm bringing to your attention so they don't continue. In sum, what I'd like to encourage is this city to be more transparent in your homeless spending, the homeless metrics, how many homeless people we have. We had the point in time count, that's the annual count this January, and we have no numbers.
Thank you.
So please report back to the population. We'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Jennifer Marakovich.
Good evening. Good evening, Council. I'm Jennifer Marakovitz from District 2. I just wanted to share some things. I just decided I'm going to just speak up. My husband texts me every day. It seems like he texts me every day. He goes to the beach. He loves the beach. And he complains about some of the smoking and the weed and stuff. And I'm trying to work, and I try to text back, and I'm like, I'm working. I don't care about dope lady and everything. And so I said, well, why don't you come here and say something? But he's busy, so I'm going to say something. And I've noticed that when we do go to the beach and we enjoy that, there is the smell coming from there, and it's very annoying. We've also kind of noticed too that the signs for no smoking are not as prominent as the signs for not feeding the squirrels. There's some big signs that say do not feed the squirrels, but there's not enough signs for no smoking. I just thought I would mention about that, and maybe maybe something could be figured out about that, and then he can stop texting me every day. Thanks.
Mayor, that does conclude oral communications.
Okay, thank you all for coming out and sharing your thoughts, and I appreciate your participation. So tonight we didn't have closed session, so there is no report from closed session. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the posted agenda, and then moving to the consent calendar, item 8E has been pulled by a member of the public.
8E. So that leaves us 8A, B, C, D, and F.
I'll move approval of those remaining items.
I'll second.
Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to item 8E. And we do have two speakers, Donna Peterson, followed by June Hansberger.
Okay, thank you. Should we hear from the public speakers first, or would you like a staff report? Staff report, brief? Yes, please.
Good evening. So tonight we, are presenting the Commission's recommendations for public art sculpture loan. And this has been a long-term project. It started back in 2017, I believe, with getting the pedestals put in. So there are 5 pedestals throughout the city's 5 communities, 1 in each. When the RFP first went out, there were not quite enough proposals, so we put out a second one, and then the jurying panel was comprised of members from each of the 5 communities. Those recommendations then went out for public input in a survey that collected 1,003 total responses, 739 of which, so 74%, were from Encinitas residents. That survey asked the public to rate each of those proposed sculptures on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not recommended and 5 being strongly recommended, and it was based on the sculpture being considered for that specific site. The 5 sites are on Encinitas Boulevard at the entrance to Oakcrest Park. You can see right there. The 3 that were recommended for consideration by the jurying panel are these 3 right here, and the numbers shown are what the public survey score was. Here is option 1 of 3. And all of these images were supplied by the artists. This was option 2. And option 3. Site B is in Cardiff on Newcastle, across the street from the Cardiff Library. There were 2 sculptures recommended for consideration at that site. Option 1 here. And then option 2. Site 3 on the backside of Sun Vista Park is near the park, the middle school, there's an elementary school across the street. 3 sculptures were considered for that site, or recommended by the jurying panel for consideration at that site. Number 1 and 2 and 3. And you'll notice some sculptures were recommended for multiple sites. The jurying panel had expressed an interest in having the public weigh in on their feelings about some of these for one site versus the other. For the Leucadia site, there was only 1 sculpture recommended, and that was in large part because there were not as many sculptures proposed for that location, and also the jurying panel had expressed a number of concerns about some of the other proposed sculptures based on safety, both public safety and also for the sculpture itself. Some of them were made of a material they felt might be damaged easily, and its proximity to the skate park area that it might just invite climbing. And then in Leeuwenhain on Lone Jack Road at the entrance to Little Oaks Equestrian Park, there were 2 that were submitted for consideration. So these all then went to the Commission for the Arts, along with the community survey, and the commission made recommendations for council tonight on which one for each of these sites to be considered. And those are these. So at Site A, which is on Encinitas Boulevard, this one here for Cardiff, this one on the backside of Sun Vista Park, this for Leucadia, this for Alevenhain, and then on February 28th, we brought forth an item during which we asked for council's approval to add another site, which was at Pacific View Arts Center. And this sculpture was then considered, and this was the one that the commission recommended. And I have the commission chair, Katie Fox, here tonight, who is also available to answer any questions you might have about that selection process. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So we'll hear from public speakers.
Donna Peterson, followed by June Hansberger.
Hello again. First of all, I want to say that I support public art and I'm a fan of art and modern art. I do not think, however, that the art selected for Leucadia Oaks Park fits with the community or fits with a park, frankly. I strongly believe that a sculpture of an image of somebody staring at a cell phone is kind of the antithesis of what you want for a park setting. You know, you want people present in the park. And I would respectfully ask that this artwork be reconsidered for Leucadia Oaks Park. And if it means that we go without artwork for a year or two until something suitable is found, I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm June Hansberger, and I am here to speak also about Leucadia Oaks Park. I am a fan of art, and I love all of the city's public art, and I applaud the staff for doing such a great job in picking it and getting it placed all over our city. So thank you very much for all your work. I do have to also agree with Ms. Peterson that I am disappointed in the selection of the man staring at a cell phone for Leucadia Oaks Park. I did say that in my comments, and I know that a lot of people also requested that we have a different option. I am a little disappointed that Leucadians are only given one choice, and that the reason was that it's placed in a park and we are going to climb on it. I feel like that's kind of a cop-out, because a lot of these other pieces are also in public places where there, are kids running around and people can climb on them. I don't know if it's because it is at a skate park that it's considered too dangerous or what it is, but I am disappointed, and I hope that we can find something more suitable and uplifting and cheery for our park. There were so many other great selections, that haven't been placed, and so I guess I'm hoping that maybe one of those could be reconsidered for this spot for this next 2-year term, but I do not want the man staring at the cell phone in our community park. Thank you so much, and thank you, staff, for all your hard work. I really appreciate it.
That concludes speakers.
Okay, thank you for the comments. I have to confess that long before this got to us, I saw the Arts Commission agenda, and I saw the results of the survey where we allowed people to respond to the arts, and it was fairly painful to read through some of the comments that were made about these art pieces. And what I would like to say is that I admire anyone who engages in artistic activities, and it is especially honorable to submit your art for public consideration and display. And all that said, I think it's also important that any public art that gets displayed is not that the public isn't hostile to that art. And while I know that that creates a situation where, It could mean that we're going to have some difficulty finding it because nobody can agree on what should go there. I think it's important that we do a little better than this. So in the meantime, I'm not sure what the alternatives are, but I would like to hear from my colleagues here. So I'll start with Deputy Mayor Blackwell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I agree with Mayor's comments. You know, one of the themes we hear in Leucadia a lot, or I hear about Leucadia, is just that we tend to get the, you know, second-rate stuff or less attention. And, you know, that's maybe more myth than reality, but it's definitely a theme. So when the sculpture came out in the staff report, and it was the only one for that site, it was the lowest rated or one of the lowest rated. Maybe that's not correct, but it was not super high. It did cause me to dig into it. I did read all the survey comments, and it was really mixed. And I would say that's the purpose of art, right, is to get people talking. In fact, seeing someone staring at their cell phone that the sculpture does is actually provoking exactly probably what the artist wants, which is people to not look at their cell phones and talk about it. So I do see there's some value in it. But I agree with June Hansberger's comments about choice. It didn't feel like there was any choice. So people voted for it, and it was really the only one, and whereas the other sites all had other options. So I guess maybe you could explain maybe how we ended up with just one option for that park, and then, but I think I would recommend maybe we wait till we could get some choice.
So the jurying panel, and just to be clear, staff's role in this process was to facilitate that jurying and recommendation process, not to influence it. And the jurying panel, in reviewing things, that was the decision that they made. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the commissioners who were on that panel available tonight to be able to speak more about it. I can just share what I recall from it, and in that they had a lot of concerns around safety with some of the ones that had been submitted, and that was that jurying panel's choice, the decision that they made to only put one forward for consideration at that site.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lyons.
Thank you. I love the fact that we have this temporary installation of sculptures program. I think it's really an asset to our city that we are in a position where we can have these pedestals and then have rotating sculptures. So I think the program itself is wonderful. So thank you to our city for that. I also like the process of the survey, broad survey, and also the jury panel. And I know some of the jurors, and I can say the ones that I know anyway, do have a background that is artistic and creative. And so from that perspective, I have a high regard for the outcome of what they've done here. Being someone who practices in an area that is artistic, I know that art, when it's done well, it elicits an emotional response. And everyone's going to respond to it differently. It's, as they say, in the eye of the beholder, and that's what art is. So we're balancing a tricky thing here with selecting pieces of art to reside in neighborhoods temporarily. So I understand that. When I first saw this report, before I read the public comments, I really like this piece, the Site D piece in itself for the simple combination of geometry. I love the idea that you can use a simple material and then just create some geometric forms and really elicit such response from people. To me, that's like successful art. I understand, I think, I can see why it was chosen for such a geometric location. The pedestal is located, surrounded by geometry. And so for me, I understood that. However, if the neighborhood is not happy with this piece, I'm I'm aligned with Councilmember Blackwell in that this piece should be reconsidered and rethought from the perspective of having more options to consider. But I do want to kind of just conclude by saying these are temporary installations. These aren't in our homes. Art will create an emotional response, and I want to ask all of us to not to be open to what the options are for these temporary sculptures, because I think just like visiting a museum or going to the temporary displays at the library, there may be things that don't resonate for you, but are still worthy of a temporary installation. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Councilmember Ehlers.
So I really appreciate staff's doing the survey. I really, what I found is my thoughts were all embedded in many of and actually the preponderance of the survey comments and results. I want to go to the ranking. I don't know if you have anything that has the ranking, but the ranking was from 1 to 5, right? There is no 0, it's 1 to 5. And to me, this is kind of like an Amazon ranking, right? Star system. I never buy anything under 3, right? I don't know if anybody else does, but I would never buy it under 3. And we have quite a few of these that the public has spoken, in my mind. And one was near 3, and maybe in the right place it'd be better. But 2 of them, one was 4.5. Everybody I showed it to said, wow, they would love that. Wow, it evokes surf. It evokes, it belongs in Cardiff. It was good. So I'm going to go further now by talking first about the one nearest Olevenhain, and I drive by every day. If you could put up and I'm going to call it what most people called it, the cartoon. It really came, there were 5 comments, all used the word cartoonish. Ranked it at a 3.1 or something like that, so right on the edge there. And so the second thing I did is I reached out to Colette and said, hey, what was the jurying criteria? I know what my jurying criteria is, but what was the jury using? And I don't know if you have that available, but I can read it too. There were three components. How will it engage the public and enhance the sense of community? Okay, we're talking about a native area right next to this. Is it enhancing Olevenhain? Is it enhancing? Yeah. Okay, second point. How will it complement the natural beauty of the site along with the context of the natural habitat or urban setting? This couldn't be more diametrically opposed as an example today. So, and third one, how it connects and reflects the history and personality of the specific site's community. So this is in Olevenhain. And yeah. So one of the thoughts, somebody said, hey, there was one of the public comments was, hey, there's none of the above selection. I think this would have won none of the above for that site. I actually think this pedestal's in the wrong place. It's right next to the road. It's right next to a beautiful native oak tree that's probably about 25 feet tall. I mean, within 10 feet of it, and that's the backdrop to this sculpture. I'll be polite. So, in this case, the color's wrong. It doesn't belong there. If you put it next to the children's park on the opposite side, maybe. I think or closer to the junior high, maybe it would look better. But right there, site character for Olevenhain, I could see windmill, moving, rustic, kinetic art, that kind of stuff. And so I won't go any further other than to say my choice here, I will not support this motion if it includes this at that site. I think I would rather have nothing for a year or two, and maybe we start smaller with 1 or 2 good ones. So and then I'll talk about the Leucadia one in Leucadia Oaks. I think it's not appropriate for that site. I actually think there may be an appropriate site for this one. It's ranked at 3.28, and that's getting up there, but I think closer to the library, more of an urban setting, thought-provoking. I like the thought-provoking. I just don't think right next to a skate park. I do understand the comment about it needs to be possibly a little tougher. I'll remind everybody of the treatment of the kook in Cardiff. And I feel like we're on a path there on a couple of these, that we're going to get decorated artwork. You know, this will be the Leucadia kook, right? So I should trademark that right now. So what I would propose, oh, and by the way, I'll talk about Site E out in Little Oaks Equestrian Park. That one's a little unique, a violin-playing, rusty, 8-foot-tall rabbit. It's whimsical, you know, but it fits better out there. You know, I think the most common comment out of the public comments was that equestrian would have made more sense, you know, fitting out some stylized equestrian. But, you know, it's temporary, I think, as my fellow council member said. So if it's out there for 2 years, I think I think I could see it there. And it was ranked 3.91, so, you know, at least we're up there, and I would buy something 3.91 on Amazon. So the net, so I won't go on, is that for Site A, which is Oakcrest Park, it's ranked 4.3 out of 5. I like it. I think it's appropriate. Site B, 4.5 out of 5.0. I like it. I'd put that probably in my backyard. It's gorgeous. I think it fits in the character perfectly. Sun Vista, I would leave it blank. I would, and we'll come back at it a year or 2 years from now when we redo this. Site D, I would reject and see if we can find a better pedestal location for it, more appropriate, more urban. Site E, I would accept. It's a 2-year commit. And I guess site, whatever we call Pacific View. That one's, I wasn't thrilled with it, but at least it's on the corner there next to the building, and I'd go with whatever my colleagues want to do. So those are my comments.
Councilmember Hensy.
Thank you. Well, I'm enjoying this discussion. I see quite a few artists in the audience, and Andrew Oot from the ICA, and I wish that there was like a speech bubble above your head that I could read your thoughts as we're having this conversation, because I'm sure I would be enlightened. I think that I want to thank the Arts Commission for all the work that you've done. Clearly, it's been an extensive process, and for taking the time to be here tonight as we have this conversation. Bruce and I have very different tastes in art, because I love that little mushroom one, and that's probably because I grew up in Leucadia, and maybe that would be more appropriate for Little Oaks Park. But my thought on this is that Leucadia deserves a choice. So I do think that this is a provocative piece of art that's being proposed there at Site D at the park in Leucadia, and it makes me feel something like, wow, I'm so glad I'm at this park and I'm not on my phone like this figure over here. I too thought of the Cardiff Kook and how that was really rejected at first by the community, and then all of a sudden it took on a life of its own, and now it's one of our most treasured features of our city. So I would be in support of rejecting the piece at Site D, just for the opportunity to bring back choices so that the community does have the chance to weigh in. I won't make a motion because I know the mayor hasn't offered his comments yet, but I wouldn't be opposed to seeing this little cartoony figure in Olivenhain, but I also do give some deference to the fact that this is out of my district.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate all of the comments. One of the thoughts that I had was whether these pieces were designed before the pedestals and the locations were identified.
Yes, the call went out to existing pieces of art.
I see. So it wasn't context sensitive per se.
It was put out with the sites identified, so the artists knew for which sites they were
Possibly
submitting.
designing for.
Correct. So, but the RFP didn't go out saying we are seeking equestrian for Olivenhain, or there were no specifics put out, specific criteria for each of those sites. It was more general, saying we're looking for art that suits the site, the unique personality of each site.
Yeah. In deference to, I respect Councilmember Ayler's suggestion that would be the Leucadia Kook, but Kook is already taken and it rhymes with Cardiff, so I would go with something like Leucadia Loser or something like that. And, you know, it's probably one of those things that it will be christened with something. I also saw a comment that was made that it's going to be ripe for skate stickers, and I tend to agree that it is going to be a target of that. And so I think that I agree with Councilmember Hinsey about rejecting Site D art. I would also suggest we reject Site C art, and so that would mean my motion would be to accept Site A, Site B, Site E, and the Pacific View Arts Center art, and reconvene on Sites C and D. And that would be my motion. Deputy Member Blackwell.
Yeah, I would second that motion, maybe with a friendly amendment that I am fine with Site D proposal coming back as one of the choices. So I don't mean to offend the artist at all, because again, I read those survey comments and they were pretty split about people loved it and people hated it. So it's a very polarizing piece of art. But I just think the choice is a better one for that. So I can support that motion with just that caveat.
And did you second it? Is that what you said? Yes, okay. And, you know, the other thing that I might suggest is that we, for a piece of public art, anything that drops below 3 is a little scary. It means that it's going to likely be the source of derision and criticism, and people who weren't participating in the voting would then engage. And so I just think that anything less than 3 is a little bit problematic. I do note that our cell phone guy is 3.16 or something like that, so he did exceed the 3, but in the meantime, there were several other pieces that were less than 3. So, but, okay, Councilmember Lyons.
So I see this somewhat differently from the motion proposer and second. So I am going to ask for a little bit of clarification before I make up my mind. When you're adding the Site C to the reject list, what is the intent for how Site C is then addressed? Did I miss you clarify that? Your clarification of that?
Well, I would reconvene, I don't know, you know, the process, go through the process again, maybe reissue the RFP and call for art or whatever we call those things. And just say, here are the 2 sites that are available, and these artists are more than welcome to resubmit. Maybe C goes to D or whatever, but just kind of broaden it out a little bit so we have some more choice. Maybe some of the ones that didn't get selected for the other sites will end up submitting. But, you know, I think that kind of starting over for those 2 sites is the way I envision it going.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. You know, I'm reluctant to head in that direction because I feel like that our process is good, but being that we're seeing our way through this for the first time, I'm willing to support that.
Thank you. Councilmember Ehlers.
Yeah, I just wanted to, what I would suggest, rather than going through the process again, we're going to do this every 1 to 2 years, right?
The pedestals were always on a 2-year cycle with an option for a 3rd year. Yeah. And with Pacific View being a new site we're planning, got an interim landscaping plan and not knowing for sure how that might go. That one went for a 1-year loan with an option for a 2nd year. There is no pedestal at Pacific View right now, so it required a freestanding sculpture.
Oh, okay.
So that was the difference why the Pacific View is treated differently than the pedestals are.
Okay, and as far as, but we will be going back through this in 2 years as we either renew.
Correct.
We could ultimately have somebody purchase it and donate it to the city, or we could renew for another stipend. It's what, $2,000 per year for each one of these?
Correct.
To the artist as a rental or stipend to them to help offset. Yeah, and my thought is we're taking on 5, 6 new ones right now. I would recommend we just forego Site C at least for the 2 years and just come back to it. let's go through the action, not all 5 at once, all 6 at once, I guess would be. Let's see how well received the 4.5s are. Let's start out on a winning streak is what I would recommend, and then we can add to it as we go. Otherwise, we got to go through a whole new RFP. We got to, it's staff time and things like that. And I don't see, I love the process, but we did the process. We came back, and I would add in the future, none of the above in 2 years. And in the meantime, we have a pedestal there. So,
I'm not big on leaving the pedestal just sitting there.
It's been there for 2 years
begging
already.
for some art, and so my inclination, I don't know what sort of time it would take to issue another call for artists and go through the process for sites C and D. Is it a 1-year process? Is it a 3-month? What would you say we could have the next round?
My best guess is it would at least be several months, because we'd want to take a look at maybe where things fell down and how we can make the language either clearer or add more detail so that we can draw in more submissions. The pool of artists who have existing public art available to loan is smaller. Also, we received significant feedback after the first RFP that the amount of money for the stipend was not comparable to other cities. So it went from $1,000 a year to $2,000 a year. And some of the feedback we received from artists who did have some art that they might have submitted was that even at $2,000, we still weren't competitive. So it wasn't worth their, according to them, it was not worth their time to submit it. So there's some conversations we should probably have before we reissue that RFP to make sure that we're going to be as successful as possible and be able to give choices for those 2 locations.
Okay, and the other thing that I was thinking is whether, do we really need to keep all of these on the same cycle? I'm not sure what works best. I wonder if Mr. Laudenslager's got a piece that could slide down Vulcan, get on down to the park or not. I think his art would be welcome there. But I think that we've made a selection, and then what we're going to need probably is you to come back with recommendations for what to do with C and D. How does that sound? Consensus there. Okay, we're going to vote.
Oh, one last comment.
Councilmember Anders.
Yeah, I think you told me during our briefing about that we initially went out for an RFP with 1,000 and we got 0 response. And that's when we went back and RFP'd with the 2,000. So I think that's kind of important to understand that maybe we didn't get, even at just doubling it, we didn't get that many more responses. I don't know how, I don't have much of an appetite to increase the stipend, but just to understand where we were relative, no response versus 2 response, I thought it's better for us to understand that process. And hence my logic well, maybe we just start with 3 or 4.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, I actually would be willing to consider going up because it's 6 locations, and, the difference between 2,000 and 3,000 or 4,000 is a city with a budget like ours, with a community that loves art. I think that this is one of those things that they're going to understand. The more we are willing to pay in a stipend, the better the artwork is going to be. So, Councilmember Hensy.
Thank you. I just wanted to make one other suggestion for the RFP, because I do think that some of the most beloved pieces of public art are those that you can touch and you can interact with and you can sit on. And, some of the best parts of visiting cities and college campuses are these pieces of sculpture that feel like they're embedded in the community. So if it's not already as part of the RFP, maybe we can add some language around, if it is accessible to the public and they could climb on it or sit on it, that we might offer extra points for that in the jury selection, or just some way that we want to encourage that type of art in our city.
Okay, we're ready to vote.
I just want to confirm the motion. So it was to approve sites A, B, E, and Pacific View. And then is it for staff to bring back recommendations for sites C and D?
Yes. Well, on how to proceed to find art for those pedestals. Is that what you agree with?
Yes.
Yep.
So recommendations for how to proceed for art on sites C and D. And we are having some connection issues with our system, so let's see if you're able to vote. Oh, motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you all. I appreciate the work of the commission and the public, members of the public who juried that stuff. And one thing that I was remiss in not doing earlier in the meeting was introducing you all to Captain Shane Watts, who is our new new captain out at the Sheriff's Substation. Would you come up to the podium here and introduce yourself to the public, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am very privileged to be here before you and serve as your captain. I've been able to serve this beautiful community in 2 other times within my career, once as a sergeant, once as a lieutenant, and now back as the captain of the North Coastal Station. So I just want to say thank you for the warm welcome. I'm looking forward to serve our beautiful community and represent the men and women wearing the Sheriff's Department uniform. So thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us to item 10A, which is Community Grant Program Application Request for FY 2024 and 25. And so it's another heavy dose of art here, and I appreciate all that went into this as well. It's our first round of new system, and I'm interested in hearing from staff and members of the public how it went.
All right, good evening, council members and members of the public. My name is Nate Fisher, Management Analyst for the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts. Joining me up here is Senior Management Analyst Gilliam, Arts Administrator Murphy, and Deputy City Manager Sapal. And we're going to give a brief presentation on the applications received for the Community Grant Program for fiscal year 25. So leading up to the application, the City Council approved revisions to the Community Grant Policy on February 14th, 2024. On the 28th and 29th of February, we held informational sessions for prospective applicants to discuss the new process and answer any questions they may have. A total of 43 people showed up to these 2 informational sessions, and the PowerPoint and resources were also provided online afterwards. So the grant application opened on March 6th at 8 a.m. and closed March 19th at 5 p.m. The application consisted of organization information, contact information, project information. Applicants that discovered mistakes after submitting an application were able to resubmit a second application as long as it was received prior to that deadline of March 19th. And so the results were that the city received 57 grant applications. For context, last year we received 58. 43 met the policy requirements for initial qualification, 10 were incomplete, and 4 were deemed ineligible based on application answers. Incomplete applications primarily involved incorrect business registration or IRS letters of determination that did not allow staff to verify the organization's status. Ineligible applications were those that did not qualify based on their submitted application answers or their documentation. So per the policy, grant funding is based on the budget and involves an allocation of 80%, an initial allocation of 80% of the budget plus 20% to be allocated by the City Council tonight. The allocation of $120,000 is allocated up to a maximum of $3,000 per applicant based on the budget and number of qualified applications that were received. Since there were 43 that qualified upon initial submission, the total per applicant equals approximately $2,790. Similar to past years, city staff recommends council members divide the remaining amount amongst yourselves and round to the nearest $100. This would mean $6,000 per council member for additional allocation. And as a reminder, the City Council has ultimate discretion and final approval for all grant applications. The recommended action tonight is that the City Council reviews and approve the recommended funding allocations and make any desired additional allocations to the grant applicants. And that concludes the presentation portion. We are available for any questions.
Okay, how many public speakers do we have?
17.
17. Are there preliminary questions? Councilmember Hensy.
Sorry if I missed this, but in the past, the most an organization could receive was $5,000. Under the new policy, if we wanted to exceed that amount with our council allocation, are we able to do that?
Yes, that's
Got it.
correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Blackwell.
Sorry, I just have a preliminary question about, so we had 10 that were incomplete, 4 didn't qualify. Did those get like a ample opportunity to cure their problem and either submit it complete or resubmit anew?
That's what tonight is for.
Oh, but I was talking about the ones that were incomplete.
So they don't qualify for funds on the initial allocation based on the policy, but ultimately City Council can decide to allocate funds accordingly.
Okay. But we did go out to them and ask them, hey, you're missing something. Do you want to, complete your application? Is that right?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Rory Spout. So the way the policy is written is that we would only go back out if there's additional funds available.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
In this case, the number of applications that were complete exceeded the number that would
Got it.
warrant that.
Perfect. Thank you for that answer.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from public speakers.
Okay, call you 3 at a time. The first 3 speakers, Jesse Hanwitt, David Mott, and then Donna Weinstein.
Good evening, everybody. I am Jessie Hanwitt, and I made a mistake. And I was upset enough about this mistake that I got up the courage to come here tonight and confess in front of all of you and to the folks behind me as well. I'm one of the founders and the president of the new Encinitas nonprofit organization called Village Encinitas. We're an all-volunteer organization, and our mission is to help seniors with the services they need in order to be able to age in place. And these are things like rides to supermarkets, doctor's appointments, help with technology, and a myriad of other issues. The village movement actually started about 20 years ago, and there are 50 villages in California and over 300 across the country. So I completed and submitted the community grant application, hoping to secure funding so that we could rent space at the senior center and have a couple of welcoming events for new members and also have some documents printed that we would need, like a volunteer handbook. And I did everything right except for one very important thing. I attached the wrong IRS document to the application. I included the first document that we got, which just gives you your EIN number, but I didn't include the one that actually says that you're a nonprofit organization, and this one is dated August 24th, 2023. So I completely understand that you have rules for submission, and I know there's a certain amount of money that you have for funding, but not only was I aghast at my error, but I'm really passionate about the mission of Village Encinitas, and I think you're going to find as we move along that we're really going to make a difference in the lives of seniors in Encinitas, and we've already started to do that. So I decided to take a deep breath and come here and ask you to please reconsider our application for funding of our proposal. Thank you in advance for your consideration, and believe me, that's the last time I'm going to make this particular mistake. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dave Mott. I'm representing La Costa Canyon High School Foundation and the Marching Band Boosters. First of all, thank you for the support last year. Really appreciate you guys supporting our community arts for all the organizations. And I'll say, reading through the other applicants and seeing the folks in the room, it's kind of humbling to come here and ask for additional funding. So you guys will make the right decision, I know. But our band is the only marching band in the district. So we pull in students from SDA, from Oakcrest and Degano. That last year was the first year we brought students to come participate in our marching band program. So it was really rewarding to see the communities come together, the different schools, and make new friends and And the thing about music, I was in marching band when I was in high school many, many years ago. The lifelong relationships you build, and it's something different than I've seen in other things like sports. I think it's, when I witness folks in the audiences watching the competitions, there's like genuine like respect for the other groups that are performing versus you kind of sit in some, and I love sports. I've got kids who play sports as well. But it's different being in the stands when parents are like, oh, ref, bad call. You know, in band, in music, in arts, it feels like people are more of a community. So I really appreciate you guys investing in that aspect. The last thing I'll say is, like a lot of organizations, we've been growing rapidly since COVID. We brought in a new band director 3 years ago. He's extremely dedicated. He's the hardest worker I've seen. And we love the support we're getting from the community. And we participate in the Encinitas Parade every year. And we love doing that. So thank you so much again. And thank you to the committee.
Following Donna will be Carolyn Cope, Gabriella Levy, and then Kathy O'Leary.
Hi, hello, good evening. My name is Donna Wetstein, and I am a resident of Encinitas for the last 20 years. And I'm up here to speak for the Exposure Skate funding. My daughter is Bryce Wetstein. She was an Olympian here for representing Encinitas and the United States of America for skateboarding. And without her and the community of Exposure building confidence and having the yearly meetup group for the weekend, and they have awesome programs like once a week on the weekend, and bringing all young ladies to the Encinitas Community Park to skate and build confidence for the young ladies. And in the interim, they also donate money to the Encinitas Community Resource and Becky's House. So with the budget that they have received, it's not going to help with the yearly program that they do put out on Encinitas in October. So I'm asking, first of all, I want to thank you, first of all, for giving them something, a budget to work with, but I'm also asking if you can increase that budget so they can have it yearly and to help the community. It's an amazing part of our community. It shows art and skateboarding, and everyone comes together, and everybody comes from all over the world to participate in this exposure event. And it really, I'm just hoping it doesn't get shut down, because it's part of our community and everyone looks forward to it. So thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Carolyn Cope, and I'm representing the Encinitas Historical Society. And we have a plan and a goal, and one of our projects is to put, and I'm sorry I don't have it with me tonight because we already, with a grant in the past from y'all, beautiful bronze plaques, historical plaques that are going on historical buildings that we identified. They have a QR code, so there's some information on them. They're about like this. They're gorgeous. I'm sorry I don't have it. Then you QR code it, and you can read all the information about the building. This is going to take a while, because with the funding we got 2 years ago, it's taken that long to identify a good source to have these very quality plaques made. Talk about public art. These are beautiful, and they're going to stay there forever unless you tear the building down. But we plan on identifying several areas throughout Encinitas. So it's going to take longer if we don't have as much money. You know, we're still going to continue doing this. You're going to be seeing me every year if we can't get all of them done, which is probably ongoing anyway. But the more money we have, the more plaques we can have created. And they really are nice, and they're meant to last for quite a long time. So any extra we can have, that's just more buildings we can identify for everyone. Thank you.
We only allow spontaneous applause, ma'am, so.
Hello, my name is Gabriella Levy, and I have been a part of Exposure Skate for just a year and a half, and I have already witnessed the immense impact that exposure has on the Encinitas community. We all know that community engagement is essential for the betterment and progression of society, and exposure is a major source of community engagement for all residents of Encinitas. I'll give you an example. Skate Rising, our youth program, which takes place at Encinitas Community Park, provides not only free access to skateboarding equipment and instruction, but also positive mentors for girls ages 4 to 16. Many local pro and Olympic skateboarders volunteer as skate instructors, creating a unique and exciting experience for local youth right here in Encinitas. One of my now dear friends who I've connected with through Exposure, Bryce, whose mother just spoke recently, is a resident of Encinitas and participated in the 2021 Olympic Games. You already heard this. She is one of many skate instructors I've witnessed at our clinics sprinkle inspiration to local youth, sending them a message that hope and positivity can lead them to progression in their skateboarding and in developing a healthy mindset, which I've seen her do as well. At Exposure, we view skateboarding as a tool to improve physical health and to develop emotional and mental skills that are crucial for overcoming any challenges life may throw your way. However, the skate scene is still a male-dominated environment, which can bring intimidation and fear to any female newcomers who are interested in learning to skate. Our Skate Rising and Seshi clinics here in Encinitas allow girls and women of Encinitas to have a free opportunity to join a safe and inclusive space and experience these mental and physical benefits of skateboarding without fear and intimidation. Exposure provides a positive atmosphere for friendships and worldly connections to develop right here in Encinitas. Multiple competitors I spoke to from last year's event mentioned how they return each year just to see new and old friends they made prior at Exposure's events at Encinitas Community Park. Exposure attracts people from all over the world to Encinitas at a time when tourism is at a lower rate here. Last year, there were over 3,000 attendees at Exposure Skate 2023. Supporting Exposure Skate is supporting all of those who attend our monthly Learn to Skate clinics and annual event, all of which take place here at Encinitas at the beautiful Encinitas Community Park. With this, I politely nudge you to consider adding additional grant funding for Exposure to not only continue our mission to put more girls on skateboards, but to continue helping the well-being of Encinitas community residents. Thank you.
Following Kathy O'Leary will be Kendra Sebelius, and then Jim Austin, and then Leah Strell.
I'm Kathy O'Leary from the Assistance League of Rancho San Diego, and I have a comment on the process of the grants. I felt like it wasn't very transparent who was going to get a grant. I contacted Julie because she said, well, come at April 19th or April 10th, they're going to consider it. And I'm like, well, am I in or am I out? And I didn't even know. And before they always sent out the whole thing that said, who was granted, how much you were granted. And I had to go find it. So I think the whole thing was real confusing this year. Anyway, I'm here for the Assistance League. The Assistance League has been actively supporting this community since 1997. I want to thank you for your consistent support of our Operation School Bell program and for the $2,790 grant this year. This granting funding will support Operation School Bell this year. Your grant will help us purchase school clothes for 28 children of low-income Encinitas families. We're proud to be able to continue to serve. Studies have shown that students who come to school inappropriately dressed are at a disadvantage, and that appropriate school clothing can improve school attendance and help in classroom performance. By providing proper school clothing, Operation School Bell helps children arrive at a classroom better prepared to learn. Not only do we provide the needed school clothing for elementary school children, we also deliver a message of joy, the community support of their efforts to gain skills that will prepare them for a successful life. In September 2023, our volunteers worked with parents and 450 Encinitas children so that they could select new school clothes at the local Target store.
Each qualified child and family got to spend $100 tax-free for school clothing and shoes. Assistance League spent $45,000 on Encinitas children. I know you have extra money to allocate tonight, and I would ask for additional $1,000 to $1,500 for our Operation School Bell program, since we will now be serving over 500 students of Encinitas schools. Your grant is making a difference in the lives of Encinitas children, and I thank you.
This is my first time at a city council meeting. Hello, everybody. Good evening, members of the Encinitas Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here. I am a volunteer mentor and coach with the Exposure Skate program. We appreciate your support over the last several years, and we appreciate making this a yearly event possible. As was said actually earlier in the proclamation for the San Diego County Fair, the Exposure Skate event, yearly event, is a free event that brings people from all over the world for fun, for opportunities for small and local businesses to show off their skills, including food, crafts, and also bring awareness to other nonprofits in the community. This event gives people the opportunity to learn how to skate, to compete, to expose to Olympians, as we've seen and heard today, and to watch people of all ages skate and be inspired by the future. This event also helps give it back to Carol's House, the community resource center that provides a 24-bed emergency shelter for all victims of domestic violence. This organization is more than just a nonprofit and more than just one event. It is bigger than that. Our organization and events brings the community together, not merely skaters alone. It is an event that includes all ages, and it is an event friendly for kids and adults. It also helps bring people from all over the world to see your city. From a personal standpoint, this event was the first event I actually ever participated in. I was intimidated and I couldn't skate. I couldn't even skate the bowl, and I slid my butt in to carve, and that's because of people like Amelia and others that are part of this organization. It empowered me to believe in myself, and I remember watching skaters before I could even skate, and this is why I signed up for this. And this is now why I volunteer with this organization, and now I coach years later. I believe in the good that this organization does in the community, not only during this event, but also throughout the year. This organization helps people find a healthy path, and I know people may judge skateboarding, but it literally helps people learn persistence, resiliency, and teaches that failure is part of the journey, and this contest and this yearly event is just one part of that. And so I appreciate you considering increasing bumping for us so that we can continue doing what we are so love to do and are passionate about, because it really does create a huge benefit for your community and brings tourism, like other people were saying. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak.
Good evening, council members. I'm Jim Austin, president of the Friends of the Encinitas Library, and I'm here to support our application for a grant to support our concert program. Every first Sunday of the month, the Friends put on a free community concert. We've been doing this since the library opened in 2008, when we had perhaps a couple dozen patrons. Now we serve upwards of 170 and turn more away. We are facing increased costs for musicians and would like to be able to hire some of the more nationally recognized. But we also feature local musicians as well as the more nationally recognized musicians. It's a very popular program. It's entirely staffed by volunteers with the assistance of library staff, brings people up to the library, and it is a very popular program. We have big plans for that program in the future and appreciate your consideration for our application. Thank you.
Next speaker is Leah Strell, followed by Amelia Brodka, then Carol Lisa Lilly, and then Jess Robledo.
Hello, Honorable City Council. My name is Leah Strell. I'm proud to say I'm on the Board of Directors of EcoFest Encinitas as the Creative Director. This year is shaping up to be outstanding. We have a new sustainable location at Fox Point Farms. We are bringing back the extraordinary Indigenous ceremony of the Eagle Dancer, who will be blessing the crops on the farm and community and dancing for world peace. We are appreciative of the city staff's recommendation of $2,750 funding from the 2024-25 Community Grant Program. However, we must emphasize that this amount barely scratches the surface of the forecasted $30,000 of hosting EcoFest 2025. With additional funding of $5,000, we will cover essential expenses associated with hosting EcoFest, including venue rental, marketing efforts, event planning, and entertainment. With your support, we will ensure the success and impact of EcoFest 25, further solidifying Encinitas' reputation as a leader in environmental sustainability. We are adding more education, more targeted exhibitors, entertainment with environmental messaging to inspire the whole family into environmental action, like composting, beach cleanups, recycling, and the most current levels of awareness. We strive to generate more funds from the event next year to use the proceeds for smaller pop-up events, informative in nature, in partnership with other businesses and other nonprofit organizations to model collaborative practices of future economics, and for instance, the E3 corridor. We are committed to working collaboratively with the City Council to promote a greener and more sustainable future for our community. Your investment in EcoFest 2025 will not only benefit the environment, but will also enhance the overall well-being and the resilience of our city. Thank you. Oh.
Hello, thank you so much for allowing us all a moment to speak. My name is Amelia Brodka. I'm an Olympian and co-founder of Exposure Skate, and I am so grateful that for the past 10 years, we've been able to have our major women's skateboarding event here in Encinitas. It's become the world's largest women's skateboarding event, and it also serves to benefit survivors of domestic violence. And I just want to thank you for all the years of support. We have been getting this grant for quite some time, but I do want to ask for you to consider increasing the grant. The costs of just running the event have increased a lot, and specifically the costs associated with just the requirements of the permit. Last year, it cost us $25,851.69 just to, not even for the event alone, but for whether it's traffic control or the shuttle or the permit application. And that's an 80% increase since 2018, when we paid $14,000 for similar services associated with just the application requirements. And this year, because of the increases in costs of using the fields and the increase of the permit application itself, that is going to go up to $32,000 at least. And like the current grant, even though it's very generous, that's barely even going to cover traffic control. And we really just love this event, and we love bringing the global community together. And we want to be able to continue to empower these women and these girls who, as you've heard, they've been able to become Olympians, and that didn't even seem possible. And actually 4 of these women who moved here to Encinitas, actually Bryce has lived here all her life, but 3 of them who moved here to Encinitas became Olympians because of their experience in this event. And not only that, but 200 skaters come from 15 different countries. They come with their families. They spend weeks here. So they really bring in a lot of revenue to the city. And we've even raised over $100,000 for survivors of domestic violence through this event over the years. And so we would love for you to consider increasing the funding to at least $10,000. If you could consider that, that would be amazing. But we just want to thank you for all the support. We love having the event here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carol Lisa Lilly, and I am here in support of Exposure Skate. I wanted to thank you for the funding that you have given in the past. And as I am from the East Coast, I can tell you that we do not have anything similar like that for men, women, and it's certainly been an amazing experience for my daughter and I. And I purchased a video in 2016 when my daughter was showing some interest in skateboarding called Underexposed, which Amelia produced. And we were on the East Coast. And I watched that video, she watched the video. I want to go to the event. So we had planned the next year to travel cross country, and we missed the event. This is so much more than an event that on the way here, we were able to attend a skate rising session put on by Exposure in Arizona. So anyway, my daughter attended events, skated in events. I think it was one of the first events that she had won money. She's now on the U.S. national team, hopefully going to Paris. And now she gives back and volunteers at their events. But that specific event in Encinitas is something that we looked forward to, and it was beyond what we could imagine. We met women, girls, families, men from all over the world, and it just really lit my daughter on fire and also allowed for her to give back. So it's so much more than the event, but I am hoping that you would continue and if not, raise the funding. Thank you.
Following Jess will be Nancy Logan, Scott Campbell, and then Jessica Toth.
Good evening. Good evening, members of the Encinitas Council. My name is Jess Robledo, and I am the Programs Director and Major Events Coordinator of Exposure Skate. I stand before you today to advocate for the invaluable contributions of Exposure Skate's programs and events to our community. As a passionate supporter of our city and its residents, I firmly believe that investing in initiatives like Exposure Skate not only enriches the lives of individuals, but also fosters a stronger, more connected community. Exposure Skate is more than just a nonprofit or a series of events. It's a beacon of empowerment, inclusion, and opportunity. Through skateboarding, it provides a platform for individuals of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities to come together, express themselves, and pursue their passions in a world where divisions often prevail. Exposure Skate promotes unity, acceptance, and diversity, creating a welcoming space where everyone feels valued and respected. One of the most remarkable aspects of Exposure Skate is its unwavering commitment to supporting and uplifting our youth. Through its various programs, including clinics, camps, and mentorship initiatives, Exposure Skate empowers young people to develop confidence, resilience, and valuable life skills. By fostering a positive outlet for self-expression and creativity, it helps steer our youth away from negative influences and towards a brighter future. Furthermore, Exposure Skate serves as a catalyst for positive change within our community. Its main event not only showcases the incredible talent and dedication of local and global skateboarders, but also attracts visitors from far and wide, bolstering our local economy and putting Encinitas on the map as a vibrant hub for skate culture. Moreover, Exposure Skate actively engages with local businesses, schools, and organizations, forging meaningful partnerships that benefit the entire community. Since 2012, Exposure Skate's main event has donated over $86,000 to the San Diego Community Resource Center's domestic violence programs. However, to continue its invaluable work, Exposure Skate relies on your support. Grant funding is crucial to sustaining and expanding its programs and events, ensuring that they remain accessible to all who wish to participate. Since 2018, there has been a significant increase in the cost of meeting Encinitas permit requirements. To give you an example, in 2018, we spent a total of $14,385.40. In 2023, we spent $25,851.69 and was honored with a $5,000 grant to cover overall event costs, which we were extremely grateful to receive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, nice to see all of you. Sorry to break up the party, but I'm not with Exposure Skate. Nancy Logan, San Diego Alliance for Drug-Free Youth, and I'm here to talk to you about our Study Buddy program. As you all know, we do many, many different programs. Study Buddies is near and dear to my heart. I've been doing it for close to 30 years that we've been representing Study Buddies. It is a mentoring program. High school students take their time and go visit the elementary schools for an hour a week for about 8 sessions every fall and every spring. Win-win for everybody. The little kids love it so much. They look forward to seeing their big buddies. They go to high school close to 100%, become big buddies because they remember how they were when they were little. Phenomenal program. I love it. It's making a difference in the life of children and teenagers. It's so good for them to do and see what volunteering does for them. And as all the speakers have spoken about, all costs are rising, so we do appreciate the continued support, and we would like more too, but do what you can. In the meantime, thank you. It's a wonderful program. Kelly? Thank you all.
I'm not with Exposure Skate either. Interesting, in 2012, this room was packed with skateboarders, and I look around the room today and I wonder why there's so many skateboarders. 2012, it was about Hall Park and getting a skate park built that these young ladies are skateboarding in right now. That's a little dose of history there. So I'm looking at these community, I'm here as a citizen. I'm not asking for any money. And this is old-fashioned politicking. This is good stuff. And I want to do a little bit oversight on this whole thing. We mentioned there were some discrepancies in applications, and that's usually a first stage of disqualifying people. But one of the key things is estimated number of Encinitas residents served. And I go through this list, and there's some incredible numbers that I think we should maybe look at these applications a little bit more. Number 11, they're talking about 50,000 people. That was Carolyn with the plaques. I'm not quite sure how that works out. Number 12, a food pantry is saying they're served 37,000 Encinitas residents. That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. Number 18, they're saying they serve 60,000 Encinitas residents. I don't think there's anything in Encinitas that serves 60,000 people. Anything. The Bro-Am, they say they serve 7,500. Okay, but then the details they had 1,000 attendees. Once again, I don't quite understand how this works. Now let's talk about people that didn't make it. I mean, this is really sad. I advocate for the Boys and Girls Club of San Diego. My kids went there, and it was great. They had a good time, and we enjoyed the experience, and I really approve of that. I can't believe they don't have a business license. That's That's what's amazing. And Rob Machado, a Encinitas cultural icon, his foundation, once again, we really should reach out to these people and give them a second chance just to make sure, because this is terrible. And other than that, we have a lot of people here. I don't know how to dish it out. I wish some of these people could get more money. Some of these people don't need money. And this Exposure Skate, they say their budget's $200,000. This isn't a big part of it, but it helps. Every little bit helps. I also noticed that Meals on Wheels is on here. I noticed they were here a month or so ago, and I applaud them for participating. And I think their number's the most accurate. They say 73 people. And I really ask the council to look at these numbers a little bit closer. And this is as a citizen, you're spending general funds money on this. Thank you.
Jessica Toth, followed by Naomi Woodward, and then Andrew Ott.
I'm Jessica Toth. I'm the Executive Director of Solana Center for Environmental Innovation. Thank you for your support. I'm asking for support for our textiles event. So textiles is an issue, an environmental issue that's really on the horizon. You're going to see more and more at the state level requiring that organic material and textile falls into that category, cannot go to the landfill. We're already seeing with food waste and landscaping materials. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on textiles in the landfill. We go on to the next slide, please. So actually not the landfill, but where do you think when you, where does our discarded clothing go? Well, it turns out that it's going to, much of it is going to a desert in Chile, which is actually visible from space, not the desert itself, not only the desert, but the clothing that's been discarded there. And next slide, please. The desert catches on fire or is set on fire, and as you can imagine, there's a lot of synthetics in that clothing, which is dangerous for the people who live there. So if that doesn't remind you of where we were with plastics and learning about plastics 10 years ago, is very much very similar, where we're sending our clothing overseas in hopes that it will be upcycled and used by somebody in need, but in fact, a lot of it is going and doing damage in other parts of the world. So next slide, please. So what we did as we researched the problem, we found that there's not necessarily a reliable, transparent solution for recycling fabrics. So we designed an event. We held it in March, and we are looking for funding to continue offering that event into the future in our headquarters in Encinitas at Solana Center. It starts with rethinking. So we're telling people about the damage that textiles do when you with fast fashion, the high rate of clothing turnover. The average American wears an item of clothing only 7 times before they decide that they're done with it. So we had a clothing swap as well, a fix-it clinic for repairs, sewing, and then we had crafts with the fabrics. Next slide, please. And these are some images from the event last month. It really, we had great turnout. We had 100 people, very enthusiastic. And I think my last slide here, go ahead to 2 more. Yep. So I love statistics. We asked people, did they bring anything? So 65% of people brought material. Jumping to the last of the pie charts there, 83% of the material brought was kept from going to landfill. So thank you. It's an important program.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh. I can't be the only shortest person here. Well, good evening. It's lovely to see you all. First of all, thank you so much for allowing us to participate, and we also met the requirements, so we're grateful for the $2,970 or $2,790. Well, the fund is going to go toward our 11th annual Encinitas Días de los Muertos which is taking place this year on October 27th at Miracosta. Gabby was supposed to join me, but unfortunately, she had a family emergency. This year, we're hoping to welcome 4,000 community members, and our estimated expense budget is about $38,000. So obviously, we're always having our hands out and looking for funds to make it even bigger and more impactful. And so I respectfully wish to ask for more funding. We'd be grateful for that. And truly, I'm honored and privileged to be able to participate in provide an event that celebrates our Latino community. This is the only free event for this community. So thank you in advance. Now I'm going to take this hat off and put another one. I am on the board of Synergy Arts Foundation. Naomi Nussbaum, unfortunately, is out of country, wasn't able to come, and we just found out that they had forgotten to register for business registration, and they have always received funding for the art therapy program, which is for their injuries, such as brain injuries, and we provide art therapy at the Scripps facilities. And I have seen firsthand what it does, especially for the veterans. And unfortunately, it looks like they may not be eligible because of that registration. And in fact, I was going to go ahead and register them. So if there's any possibility to provide some funding for that program, because there's so many people dependent on it, and I've attended it, and it's provided at Scripps facility by Target. I don't know if you're familiar, where they do physical therapy. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Hello, Mayor, council members. My name is Andrew Oot. I am the Executive Director at the Institute of Contemporary Art, San Diego. Formerly Lux Art Institute, many of you know it as Lux. Now we are ICA. We are a living laboratory for presenting the transformational power of art to build vibrant communities. And I highlight the last part of that, vibrant communities, because we are a vibrant community here, and we are looking to build a stronger, vibrant community around the arts. We do that through many different programs. Our budget is quite extensive. Beyond just the events that we applied to for this program, we hold exhibitions throughout the year, primarily of, we present both international and local artists, as well as classes throughout the year, host a number of events, and provide our space for galas and other events for nonprofits locally. For the funding request that we made for you all this year, it was to focus on our See You Saturday programs. Aptly said, because we hope to see you on the Saturday of the event. We usually bring in anywhere from 3 on the low end to 700 people to our events, on average, around 400, 450. Each one of those events brings in people from all over the country as well as all over the world. We host 4 of them here in Encinitas each year. The amount of people coming in to Encinitas is actually quite significant. Of those visitors, there are only 31% from Encinitas. That means that 59% are coming from the rest of the county and another 10% beyond our county. That also drives a significant economic impact to our region. We know from the for the Arts Economic Prosperity Report that was recently done in the last year, that those visitors who are local spend about $33 every time they come to an event, whereas those who are coming from outside of our region are spending $64. That's a significant impact, not only on the immediate scale, but also on the larger scale. So we know that from these events that we are providing, we're also providing immediately $34,000 of local tax revenue for you all. We're providing $54,000 of state tax revenue and $194,000 of federal tax revenue. So I thank the Americans for the Arts for being able to provide that information for you tonight. So today, I am asking for you to double that impact by giving us $2,790. That is a starting point. By doubling that, you also double the revenue that comes back to the city. Thank you very much.
That does conclude speakers.
Okay, thank you. So nobody has punched their button to speak.
We're all calculating.
I think that this next step involves a spreadsheet, is that correct? Yes. And so, I can give you a bunch of numbers. Number one, $500 more, right? So, number 9, $500 more. Number 11, $500 more. Number 14, Exposure Skate, which I think tonight got an award for the most speakers in support of more money than any other grantee that we've ever had. Did I say 500 for them? Yes. For 14. So 15, 500. Did I say 11? Okay. 35, 36, 37, and 38, 500 each. We get 6,000 each, right? Is that correct? Yep. And then I'll get back to you with one more 500. I think that totals 5,500, right? Yes, it does.
I have 3,500.
What?
Just
35, 36, 37, 38?
So we have number 1, number 9, number 11, number 14, 15, 35, 36, 37, and 38.
Okay, sorry, number 17, 500, and number 20, 500.
So that's 5,500.
Okay, I'll come back with 500 more.
Okay.
Councilmember Ehlers.
Okay, I don't have the number, I have the names. So my first two are about anti-drug and education, fighting opioid. And I want to put the most money there. San Diego Alliance for Drug-Free Youth, Study Buddy. My daughter did that too, by the way, 1,000 for that. That's number 1. I did get that number scratched in there. Second one would be the Mano a Mano Foundation, fighting opioid overdoses for the Latino community. I want to do 1,000 for that. And let me know if I'm going too fast. So now I'm going to drop down a little and go through a bunch of other groups. I love a clean San Diego beach cleanup, 500. Meals on Wheels, serving 73 seniors in Encinitas, 500. Encinitas Friends of the Arts, the Dia de los Muertos, 500. Encinitas Historical Society for the markers, 500. Encinitas Library, jazz concerts, 500.
What number is that one?
Say that again?
Okay, that's number 10? No.
Yeah.
For the concerts.
The,
What was that last one?
What's the name of the group?
The last one was, we did Friends of Encinitas Library. Where did I do that? Number 15?
15?
Yes, the jazz concerts, correct.
Thank you.
500, yeah. San Diego Heritage Museum, the Small Town Fair, 500. It's hard to keep watching all these screens, what you're doing, what I'm doing, so I'm going to, Liebenheim Town Council, Oktoberfest, 500. And that should get me to 5,500 so far.
That's correct.
Okay, so with I'm splitting the last one between the North Shore Symphony, 300, and that'll bring them up to their $3,000 request. I thought that make them whole. And the last 200 to Nature Collective, the Wings Over Wetlands.
Okay, and my last 500 would go to number 10, EFA, Encinitas Friends of the Arts. Councilmember Lyons.
Yes, thank you. I'll go fairly quickly through these based on many that are in my district and those that I would traditionally support. I'll try to go down the list numerically. Assistance League, number 1, in the amount of $1,000. EcoFest, number 9, in the amount of $500. Number 10, Friends of the Arts, number 10, in the amount of $500. Okay, keeping up? Yeah. Historical Society, number 11, $2,000. Number 14, Exposure Skate, $790. Sorry for the odd amount. Number 15, Friends of the Library, $210. Number 33, See You Saturday, $500. And number 38, the Solana Center Textiles event, $500. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Blackwell.
I'm totally turned sideways now on this chart. But anyway, let's go through that. I think I'll go numerically as well. Number 1, the Assistance League. Number 7, Coastal Roots Farm and their environmental STEM, nutrition and workforce development program.
How much?
Sorry, how much?
Oh, I'm sorry,
What value?
500 each. These are all 500. That makes it easy, right? Number 9.
Was that last one number 7?
Yes.
Thank you.
Number 1 and number 7. Now I'm up to number 9 for Encinitas Environment Day, EcoFest. Number 11, the Encinitas Historical Society. Number 12, St. Andrew's Food Pantry. Number 14, Exposure Skate. Thanks for coming out. Number 32, the Quail Botanical Gardens Link to Nature, their teen wellness program. Number 38, Solana Center, the textile waste. And I did add one that was ineligible. You can tell me if I can't, but that was number 53, the Village Encinitas, Aging Better Together. Now there's a few in the arts that I probably missed, so I'm sorry to make you back up. But if you could go to number 10,
Encinitas Friends of the Arts. Number 15, Friends of the Library, their concerts. And number 33, the San Diego Art Institute, See You Saturdays.
Councilmember Hensy, do you want me to allocate your
Oh,
$6,000
no, I'll go ahead and
for
do
you?
it. I just wanted to make sure there was some thought to that everybody who showed up should get some money. All right, so here we go. I'm going to tally it up in real time, too. I would also like to give $1,000 to Village Encinitas. We all make mistakes, and this is not, not super easy. Exposure Skate, I'd like to give you $1,000. Historic Society, 500. Assistance League, 500. Study Buddies, 500. Changing Tides Foundation, I'd like to give them 500.
Apologies. The last study buddy, which one number is that? Got it.
Oh, Study Buddies, number 30. Oh, number 36 is Study Buddies. Assistance League is number 1. Are we all caught up? The LCC Marching Band, I'd like to give them $500. Thank you for showing up. Let's see. Synergy, let's give them $500. And are we there? How much did I allocate?
5,000.
I have
There's-
5,000.
Yes, I have 1,000 remaining.
Okay, 1,000 remaining. Let's do 500 for EFA and 500 for Solana Center.
We have 1,500 remaining, so we missed.
Are you trying to find a math error?
So it appears that we missed one of your allocations. So if we could go through and identify from, starting with the mayor, identify the specific allocations to make sure that we're capturing everything. Was it Kelly's? Maybe we're missing one of Kelly's.
Did you get Synergy? I said that one quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That took care of it?
Yes, we are clear.
We are clear.
Yes.
Okay, so I would move approval of these allocations and the awards for the grant applicants.
I'll second the motion.
Motion carries unanimously.
And we are going to take a break, but I would say to Roy and his team, we didn't get around to feedback about how it went this time, but maybe we can regroup it down the road a piece so that we can address any ideas that you might have for making it better.
Will do.
Thank you. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Sorry for everybody that's hanging around.
I'm not even going to keep mine because I don't.
Appreciate all the work you do. Are we ready, Kathy?
We are now.
Okay, we're reconvening, and we're on to item 10B, which has to do with trail fencing and the Levenheim Trail Enhancements Project. And looks like we got the engineering team led by City Engineer Jill Bankston.
Okay, let's see. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Carlos Baldenegro. I'm a senior engineer in the engineering department, CIP division, and I'm here to present the Levenheim Trail Enhancements Project. So here's the agenda. This project involves, it's a portion of an overall project we're going to be doing in the future. Well, there it is. The current project examples of post and rope, Y post and rope, composite fencing, existing fencing, neighborhood meeting we held, and type of fencing type comparison and installation comparison. So here we're going to be doing a trail fence along Rancho Santa Fe. Does that show up there? Okay, from Lone Jack all the way to the school here, Levenheim Pioneer Elementary School. However, this project, the reason for this is because there are several schools, this Dieguito Middle School and Levenheim Pioneer Elementary School. Those students use this trail to get home, and as well as horses and pedestrians and walkers and so on. So the current project involves a portion of this trail. We selected post and rope, and it's about 1,872 feet long. We received a grant from the California Department of Parks and Recreation for $150,000 to construct and design this project. And you can see there the segment that we're going to be building. So as far as post and rope details go, the posts are going to be about 8 feet apart. They're going to be embedded 2.5 feet down, and the railing fencing will be 18 inches from the existing curb. There's a concrete curb and gutter. And there'll be 2 rope rails as it is right now. Here's an example of a post and rope fencing that was just installed along South Coast Highway 101. Here's some details of post and rope. This is an example of what San Marcos installed. Here's a close-up of the rope. Here's a close-up of the end detail, where the rope is actually melted to form that larger mass so it doesn't pull out. And their fencing is about 3 feet setback from the edge of the road. Ours will be 18. So why post and rope fencing? Consider a safe option next to a roadway. Lodgepole and rail systems can detach and burst into the trail zone and penetrate vehicle compartments. Composite post and rail systems pose a risk of fragmentation. Other localities and agencies are adopting post and rope fencing, such as the County of San Diego, City of Poway, and the City of San Marcos. I included their city council meetings and where they adopted the post and rope. And it's considered the safest for trail users and reduced liability to cities and other agencies. That was a big issue for San Marcos, since I believe they're self-insured. So here's a slide on composite fencing, the history. We had lodgepole fencing up in Olivenheim until there was a vehicle accident in 2007 where the city proposed removing it. Other solutions were proposed, such as bright reflectors every 50 feet, rumble strips. But eventually, the community came together along with Olivenheim Town Council, and they selected the composite fencing as best suited for the character and safety of the community. Here's the details that I received from Parks. The posts are also 8 feet apart. They're made of this material called a composite material. Basically, you assemble the posts together using the lumber of this material. And it's a sandwich, and there's smaller pieces in between to hold up the rails. But the design is exactly the same as the post and rope, except for the material. Here's an example of a post and rope, a composite that was installed in El Camino del Norte in Encinitas. This is just when it opened. Here's some more details of composite. This is in Lone Jack, and this is farther up in Lone Jack, and from a community meeting which we had, we'll discuss later. They mentioned that there was like a fiberglass feel to that composite. And from what Parks told us, that they changed, that manufacturer went bankrupt or out of business, so now we're using a different product.
How many more slides do you have?
5 more.
5 more. And are there any public speakers? No public speakers. Okay. Breeze through these 5 very quickly, please.
Okay. So we were requested to identify what other types of fencing we have along Rancho Santa Fe. And here we have the composite branching streets from Rancho Santa Fe. And along Rancho Santa Fe, there's lodgepole fencing. There's a 3-rail at this location. The 2-rail right in front of the meeting hall, and the 2-rail, but a larger separation. So after the December 13 meeting, we were instructed to have get some more community outreach. So we had a neighborhood meeting on March 6th. It was attended by city staff, Olivenheim Town Council, and Encinitas Trails Coalition. 11 citizens showed up. The majority of attendees favored composite material fencing. That was a vote. And the majority online survey takers also favor composite. So as a comparison of the post and rope and composite, the estimated cost for post and rope is $63 a foot as compared to $154 for composite. Granted, the lodge posts usually last about 5 years, and the synthetic rope will last between 3 and 20 years, while the composite materials warranted for 20 years. So here's our project comparing the two materials. Post and rope would go all the way through to 13th Street as we had designed it. But if we go with composite with the current funding, it would end about halfway between Catalina and 13th Street, so 1192 feet. Staff recommendations to provide direction to staff on fencing type. Either post and rope or composite, approve the design of the plans, either the post and rope or the composite, adopt the resolution for the design, and to authorize advertising the project.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Raylers.
Yeah, I attended the meeting, the community meeting. I also attended the 2007 community meeting. I won't rehash that. And basically, the consensus was composite fencing. It's horse fencing that fits the equestrian nature. It's very sturdy. It's a 20-year life versus 5-year for the posts. And some of those posts that are out there today have been in the ground almost 20 years, since around 2000. The new composite, I don't know if you had a sample today, but the sample you had at the meeting was wonderful.
I left it in the office. Sorry.
They're very, very dense, and they don't have the fibrous feel, so they're even better than the old one. Yes. And they're consistent with Trail 95 we just put in, so it was good. I even checked with Jeff Acaro, who's the president of the OTC. He's actually traveling internationally today. He is good with the composite. I checked with Linda Martin, as did Carlos. Actually, Carlos checked with him, but I was on the email chain. And the Encinitas Trails Coalition is good with it, and I checked with other people. Everybody is good with the composite, even though it's shorter. As I said last time, this is right in my neighborhood. I walk this trail quite often, weekly, if not more often. And so I would move approval of composite fencing over the shorter distance.
I guess one question that so we have a motion, and I'll second it for discussion. So composite is, if I saw that previous slide, composite takes us about half as far. How do you propose, do you think we should just stop at that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, it covers the curve, which when I'm walking, that's where you feel the most exposed.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other part, again, I walk it quite often. I never feel it's going, the traffic on that side's going up the grade, and they don't go that bad. It's not, there are enough stop signs that people don't get up that much speed. It's not like walking along El Camino or the uninterrupted sections of Manchester and things like that.
Because you threw down all those stop signs, yes.
Yeah, there was a smile on my face when I said that, I know.
Councilmember Lyons.
I'll support this too, but I have a question and a comment. You showed two photographs of the composite. One was white and the other was kind of a grayish taupe color. Was the consensus from the community around one of those colors?
I don't believe we discussed the color. The white that we have on Camino and Lone Jack is Parks just buys it that way. It's primed, and that's how they buy it. It's not painted. It just comes with a primer on it, and that's what they install.
Councilmember Ehlers.
Were you going to answer that
Go ahead.
question?
Yeah, I was going to. I think either color is fine. We ought to be consistent was the number one message. And so whether we paint it or we continue, I thought the material we're buying now is great. And let's just make it all, in Olivenhain at least, match
Sure.
long-term. And when we do, is it Trail 81 or 82 along Encinita, along Rancho
It's,
San Pedro? Oh, it's one of each? Or there's
Yeah, it's
okay.
split.
That's it then.
Heading north is 81, south is 82.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
The demarcation line is right here at the intersection of Lone Jack.
Yeah, and the goal, I think, that the community expressed is that going forward, as we do new trail sections, that we do a consistent composite, whatever color, the gray or white are so close to each other, it's really hard to even tell. And like I said, the trail section, I really appreciate the different pictures of the different three-rung pole and the short, they're also short two poles and tall two poles, so.
Yes.
But those are going to get near end of life pretty darn soon. They've already started breaking down. You'll see them crack from kids climbing on them. Because like you said, they're 5 to 10 year life, and some of those are almost 20. They're 18 years right now. So as we replace them, or as the OTC replaces theirs, I'd like to see it that we get on a common theme all the way through Olivenhain.
Councilmember Lyons, were you done with your questions?
I had a comment, and that was to maintain consistency and be clear about what color so that we manage expectations and in the future work towards consistency, as Councilmember Ehlers just said. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, so we're ready to vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, moving on to item 11A, which is an informational item reporting on the granting of an emergency coastal development permit for the installation of a shotcrete wall with tieback anchors to stabilize slope erosion and the installation of related interim slope drainage system improvements. And presenting this item will be our Assistant City Manager, Jennifer Campbell.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Yeah, a little change in the lineup. I'm going to be taking this item. So tonight before you is for City Council to receive and file the report and attachments regarding an emergency coastal development permit that was issued on March 11th for the residences at 2471, 2483, and 2485 Oxford Avenue. According to Municipal Code 30.80.180, emergency coastal development permit. The city does need to report out when we do approve an emergency coastal development permit at a city council meeting, so this is an informational item only, and I ask that city council receive and file the report and attachments for the emergency coastal development permit. It is an emergency status, so the residents of those houses will have to come back with a permanent fix that will have to go to Coastal Commission for approval. So that concludes my report, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Lyons.
Yes, I know this is a receive and file. Thank you for bringing it forward. I know we're required to bring it forward, and I want to thank staff for doing very good problem solving to help resolve an issue on this project.
Okay, it's an informational item. It is received and filed. Is there, I'm assuming there's no public speakers. No public speakers. Very good, thank you. And so that takes us to item 11B, which is a presentation on the tree pruning program schedule. And we have our team of arborists and public works and parks and West Coast arborists. And Chris Kallstrand, the city arborist, works for DUDEC.
Correct. Thank you for having us this evening. How do we get this?
Warren will show you how to do that.
Which one? Perfect, thank you. Perfect. Well, thank you for having us here this evening. We were asked to come and give a presentation on and discussion on the tree pruning program and the schedule within the city of Encinitas. It'll be myself doing part of the presentation from the public works side, and then David is here as well to help out with the parks information. Brief overview of the topics we're going over this evening. I'm going to touch on our urban forestry management program as a whole, go into the history of how our management or our pruning program began and where it's at now, discuss the public works program, and then, as I said, David will chime in about parks, recreation, and cultural arts program side of it, things. And then, as Sylvester said earlier, it takes a team, so we have our entire team here to answer any questions that you all might have at the end. The overview of our program is the city is responsible for the maintenance of public trees and the urban forests. Staff has overall responsibility for all city tree concerns and is the liaison for the development and construction processes throughout the city. In-house crews perform inspection, pruning, and emergency tree operations on an as-needed basis. Staff also administers contracts with the tree service companies, which perform a wide variety of services throughout the city, such as tree planting, removal, pruning, stump grinding, etc. In total, there's approximately 23,000 trees that are maintained by the city within the public right-of-way. They're maintained by both Public Works Department and the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Departments. Public Works is responsible for about 15,500 of those trees, and those are the trees that are within the public right-of-way that are non-irrigated trees. Parks responsibility is about 7,500 trees, and those are within medians and the irrigated public right-of-way. The program is also has myself as the contract city arborist, so I primarily respond to oversight of all the programs, liaison to the Urban Forest Advisory Committee, responding to any of the hundreds of calls we receive from residents to go out and look at various pruning needs, structural issues, concrete damage, damage to pipelines, things along those lines. And then West Coast Arborist is the city's tree maintenance contractor. A little bit of history of where the whole program began. So pre-1986, the county of San Diego provided really limited maintenance services throughout the city. And then somewhere in between 1986 and the 90s, Streets Department was responsible for the maintenance of all city assets, including trees. It was then in the 1990s where the responsibility of the city assets were divided. At that time, maintenance of trees within parks and beaches was shifted over to the Parks Department at that time. And then in the mid-90s, the irrigated right-of-way, parks, trails, beaches, and other landscapes fell under the Parks Department under the Encinitas landscape and lighting districts. And that had to do with irrigation within those right-of-ways, and so that fell within the parks overview. So a little bit about Public Works Department. Public Works Department responsibility is, again, the public right-of-way that is unirrigated. They maintain approximately 15,500 trees. Prior to 2004, all pruning was conducted on an as-needed basis. So at this time, it was very reactive. We'd get a call, or the city would get a call from a resident, hey, my tree needs attention, go out and do it. So there was no proactive approach. In 2004, there was a tree failure at Hanson Surf Shop, and this led to a programmatic change within the city. And this was where the city began taking more of a proactive approach, and that's where we're at today, where we're going out routinely looking at the trees, having much more contact with the trees, and then West Coast Arborists having a more comprehensive pruning program that they assist us with. As I said, in 2004, so that resulted in two things. A comprehensive tree inventory of all the public trees and the development and implementation of the grid pruning and inspection schedule that we currently practice today. In 2017, when this was at the same time that the contract city arborist position came into be, we also shifted a couple of the species outside of the grid pruning program. This included pines, which are pushed out to more of a 5-year cycle, and they're not even pruned on that necessarily. It's more to give them a species-driven pruning. Palms are pruned on an annual basis, and then eucalyptus, because of the liability that's associated with them, we want the city contractor to have a closer eyes on those and increase pruning as well. One thing that's not listed on here is the ficus as well. Those are on their own pruning schedule, and that's shifted quite a bit over the last couple of years. Where we are at now with ficus is that it's up onto an annual inspection process, and as the city's contractor, Katrina or myself go out and we do individual pruning recommendations on a tree-by-tree basis for those ones. Sorry, I'm getting over sinus infection, so my mouth just dries out pretty quickly here. So within the Public Works program, it divides the city's unirrigated roads into geographic sections, as can be seen in the map. Grid pruning was selected for several reasons when it was initiated. It provides a systematic approach to routine tree inspection and maintenance. Its cost effectiveness with the city's tree maintenance contractor allows for easy mobilization, scheduling, and work tracking throughout the city. Allows for the Public Works Department to maintain an annual budget consistency so that they know every year how many trees are going to be pruned and what that cost will be. It also implements preventative and reactive tree maintenance, is performed all in one operation. The way the program works is that West Coast is out there, but they're inspecting the trees. They're also in the trees. They're able to catch things that we can't see from the ground. So we're able to do preventative maintenance, and as they see anything, we can do some reactive stuff as well. We have routine inspections, not only from the ground, but within the tree crown when we have West Coast out there. They have the ability to use booms and other pieces of equipment that allow a more comprehensive view of the tree, whereas from the ground, we may have limitations. It's also help assist with a reduction in liability to the city. So the grid pruning program divides the city's unirrigated rows into these geographic regions. In total, there's 11 work zones with 30 subzones within each one. Each zone can range from 62 to 526 trees per zone. And then they're broken down so it's relatively uniform in terms of the number of trees per zone per year. Sections are on a rotational schedule in which every section is serviced approximately every 1 to 3 years, and a full rotation is completed in approximately 2 to 5 years. And again, those other 4 species are pulled out of these, so they aren't being pruned on the same schedule as the rest of the city. Oops. Going back. So within the process, each tree is evaluated by the city's tree maintenance contractor, WCA, before pruning occurs. During this, they're looking at health and the pruning needs, as well as to identify any structural issues that may present a risk to the community and or a liability. During this pre-inspection, each tree is inspected by WCA's ISA certified arborist for the following. They inspect it for overhead pedestrian or vehicular clearance, visibility clearance, structural defects within the crown, deadwood, and then not included any pest or disease as well that may need to be addressed at that time. When a tree does not meet the defined criteria for pruning, the city's tree maintenance contractor skips the tree and does not conduct maintenance. It's somewhere around 20% of the trees are skipped each year within each grid. When a tree meets the defined criteria, the tree is then pruned accordingly following American National Standard Institute, ANSI A300 tree care standards. And you can see on the side how the graph roughly breaks out in terms of when we're pruning what section within the city. Additional pruning and maintenance programs, as I had discussed earlier, we have a few species-specific plans, which are the palms, pines, ficus, and eucalyptus. Palms and eucalyptus are annual. Pines are anywhere from 3 to 5 years, and then the downtown ficus are an annual inspection and pruning on an as-needed basis now. We also implement a young tree care program. This includes irrigation, weed abatement, and structural pruning. We're hoping to, through structural pruning, that we can minimize the level of pruning that needs to be done as the trees mature. And then we also field residential requests. These are a bulk of what I respond to, and Katrina and our team as the city contract arborist, and there's approximately 600 or so residential calls. These are often outside of the grids that we're working in, and they can, again, be from, there's this tree's roots are cracking the sidewalk. They're breaking my pipes, or this tree has a hanger and needs to be addressed. So it could be a multitude of things, but that's a large number of calls that come in every single year. A little bit funding and background. So it's funded from the general fund. In the past 5 years, Public Works has spent an average of $624,000 per year on tree pruning. These associated costs include labor, special equipment, traffic control, and North County Transit District rail permits and flagging for a lot of the eucalyptus work that's been done over the last couple of years. The average annual grid pruning cost per tree extended from maintenance services over this 5-year period comes to about $42 per tree. And then I'll pass this over to David.
Thank you, Chris. As Chris mentioned, the Department of Parks and Recreation, Cultural Arts is responsible for maintaining our urban forest trees in our parks, beaches, trails, facilities, and irrigated rights-of-way. Next slide. Each of the park and beach supervisors are ISA certified arborists, and they work closely with our tree contractor as well as the city arborist to evaluate trees for health, structural issues, and pruning needs, similar to what Chris outlined for the Public Works Department. Trees are inspected by park staff and WCA arborists for clearance and any structural issues. If a tree does not meet any of the defined guidelines, we do not prune that tree in that year. Approximately a third of our inventory is pruned each year, with slower growing species pruned less frequently. And again, trees are also pruned to ANSI 300 tree care standards. Next slide. And similarly, most of our funding is from the general fund, with some of that also coming from the lighting and landscape districts. And in the last 5 years, the Parks Department has spent an average of $285,000 per year on tree pruning. Our costs also include labor, special equipment, and traffic control. And average tree costs tend to be higher in the Parks Department, mostly due to limited access for larger equipment. We need to protect more surfaces. We have less asphalt and things like that, so the equipment has to go over grass. And flagging and traffic control. And so that's an overview of the Parks Department, and I believe that concludes our slides.
Yep, that should do it. Like I said, any questions? We have pretty much our whole team here this evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you putting on this presentation. This was something that I asked to have done, and it's in part because several years ago, Councilmember Lisa Schaefer and I formed a subcommittee to look at the city's urban forest maintenance policy. And we wrote a fairly lengthy report and had many recommendations in it, one of which was to have a city arborist. And there were, the other was a urban forest advisory committee. And there were also some questions about the splits in responsibilities, so that Public Works was managing street trees, Parks Department was managing park trees and median trees, and it just wasn't all that clear. So there were a number of issues that came up in those conversations, and I thought the report was helpful and has set us on a path. But I think that it's something that I would love to see another subcommittee formed to review how things have worked out. But before we get into council member questions, I wonder, do we have any public speakers?
We do. We have 3.
Okay.
Mark
Did you want to ask a question here from the public speakers?
We do have Mark Wisniewski, Brian Bishop, and then Brad Roth.
Okay.
Oh, I had a speaker slip from him as well. So donating time? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Kranz, members of the City Council. My name is Mark Wisniewski. I'm a consulting arborist, and I fully support the proper tree pruning when necessary. My work over the past 30 years has been to create tree management plans, tree maintenance plans, pruning specifications for tree care contractors to bid, and to inspect work in progress and verify completion. I and my associate Tim Clancy in our work have been recommending a diagnostic approach to pruning trees. You're familiar with the diagnostic approach through medical visits. First, you have a diagnosis. What is the problem or condition that requires pruning? You have a prescription. What are the proper pruning procedures and methods that are to be used? And a dosage. How much material needs to be removed from the tree to complete the treatment? My understanding from Chris is that in Encinitas, the individual, and from this evening, that determines if a tree is pruned and how the tree is pruned is the crew foreman from the tree care contractor. And Chris said that there are 5 conditions or so that must be met, one of which must be met in order to prune a tree, or it's not pruned, which is a good approach. Not pruning trees that don't need to be pruned, because it saves the city money. In actual practice, what I have unfortunately have observed and documented over decades is that many mature trees are over-pruned, in my opinion. Well, what is over-pruning? Well, since we live in Encinitas, I would like you to participate in a visualization exercise. Relax. Close your eyes. Come on, close your eyes, Tony. No cheating. Take a deep breath. And now, visualize a trip to the country, up to Julian or Palomar Mountain, and what the canopies of the oaks and the pines look like. Look at how dense they are, and picture how much light is, or sky can you see through the canopy. Now, Picture trees that you may have seen in Encinitas, along our streets, and particularly along Camino del Mar. And picture how much light you see through the canopies. Okay, you can open your eyes and you can go check your visualization experience by visiting the sites. The city also has a climate action plan. You may be familiar with that. That has a component of using tree planting of new trees to sequester carbon. New trees sequester very little carbon, and they don't really reach carbon neutral till about the age of 32 years after they've been planted, if they're pruned properly. Now, the national standard that they were talking about for tree pruning has a component, not to remove more than 25% of the live foliage from a tree at any pruning event. So what is happening with overpruning? Sequestered carbon is removed by using chainsaws, chippers, and trucks to add more CO2 unnecessarily to our community. So it's having a negative effect on our climate action plan rather than a positive. I suggest that the city reconsider why, how, and to what extent our trees are pruned. Also, the pruned material is at times sent to off-site green waste disposal sites. As much chip tree prunes should be used as mulch in our parks, medians, roadsides, and trails to control weeds, capture water for infiltration, reduce erosion, and improve soil, sequestering carbon in the soil in our community. Now, just a reminder, those green things on the trees, they're called leaves for a reason. To the fullest extent possible, they should be left on the trees. And when they fall on the ground, to the fullest extent possible, they should be left as mulch on the ground rather than having gardeners in our parks remove the leaves. Otherwise, they would be called removes, right? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Brian?
Good evening, y'all. I just heard that there's something going on that might be changing the tree program here for the city, and so I'm here for that purpose. I am a 40-plus year, 44 years in the tree business. Took care of all the trees on Camp Pendleton for 7 years, so not quite a city, but a little bit bigger than the city of Encinitas. So I'm just here to see what's proposed, and I want to see long-term on the Urban Forestry Advisory Council. So I just hope if there are any changes coming down the line, that they would go through our council, because that's why we're there.
Thank you. I appreciate you signing back up for the Urban Forest Advisory Committee. Councilmember Ehlers.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. Is there a policy in there about replacement of removed trees? So when you have to remove a tree?
We replace if it's appropriate for the spot. So there's certain instances where we do removals where the tree shouldn't have been ever planted there in the first place, right? It could be a small park, too small of a parkway. There could be infrastructure-related issues, et cetera. So there are always outliers. Mm-hmm. But our goal is to have a net positive at the end of every year. So if a tree is removed, we do make an attempt to replant it. If not in that same location, we do try to find another location, right, that's more suitable. So we try to end up with, I don't have exact numbers right now, but it's say 2 to 1 at least by the end of the year. So we're trying to always have a net positive over our loss. So we don't want to ever be even. We're always trying to get a gain.
And is what you just described in the tree policy or whatever department policy in either parks or in
It is. There are references, depending, it's hard to recall right off the top of my head, but I think it a minimum of 1-to-1 when a tree is removed.
And then I wanted to get to, if you can tell me, or maybe offline afterwards, show me where I can go read the policy. In particular, I want to learn about native plants, and I think we talked about it, was it last week or 2 meetings ago, where we talked about the replacement of trees with drought tolerant, in fact, I think it was in the minutes from tonight, so it must have been March 20th or 27th, that we talked about replacement with drought tolerant and I think et cetera, local natives, flora, where practical. And what I'm trying to do is follow this from our policy and our future native plant policy down through the various policies and plans down into departmental procedures, just to understand that chain of command and how it works. So I guess offline. Second thing is, can you send us a copy? This is a great report. I love it. I love the specificity in it, and if you could send a copy to the council.
Perfect. I believe there's a copy that's been posted online. Is that correct, John, as well? But we can certainly send you another copy. Yep.
Councilmember Lyons.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, for asking for this informational item to come forward. It is informative, and I appreciate that you're reporting on what our standards are and how we're working to achieve those standards. I've also heard from Mark over the years and his colleague Tim Clancy about a concern about overpruning. So I like hearing your comments again, Mark. So thank you for that. What I was doing is just some double checking. We do say that we conform with the ANSI A300 tree pruning standards, and in there in the standards, it's identified that no more than 25% of the total tree foliage in a single year should be removed. So that would imply that it's our goal to make sure we meet that standard. Is there any other way that we're kind of measuring how we're achieving the required standards for pruning? I'm thinking in terms of something visual, like Mark was talking about, like the openness of a canopy before and after, or is there any other way we measure how we're achieving the standards?
We do follow-up inspections. So each time WCA sends the city an invoice, that's passed along to us as the city contracted arborist. And then we go and look at a percentage of those trees. It's budget-based, so we can't look at every single tree that comes in every time, but we try to look at approximately 10% to ensure that WCA is not, quote-unquote, over-pruning trees, that they're trees that are skipped. Maybe they actually did need something. So we're doing a follow-up review every time we get an invoice, trying to stay on top of that to make sure that they are within the standards. And the team that does these inspections are all ISA certified, tree risk assessment qualified, et cetera, and are very familiar with the standards and best management practices.
I appreciate that. So there's a record, and it's based on, where each of these trees are, and when the pruning's been looked at and whether, so we're tracking every single one, and there's a record assigned with each tree.
Correct. It's not shown on the tree tracker within the Encinitas website. However, Arbor Access, which is provided by West Coast Arborists, is our main go-to. And within that, I can go in and you could tell me any specific tree within the city. I can go and look at exactly when that tree was last pruned and who it was pruned by, et cetera. It's quite a comprehensive program. At any given day as well, I can see where West Coast Arborist crews are in the city, and we will go do spot checks. And they won't know we're standing there, but we'll sit in our car and make sure that they're doing what they need to be doing within the city. So
If someone at the city wanted to not inspect, that's the wrong word, but wanted to review the history of a tree through your departments, we would be able to then sit with you and you could say, oh yeah, this was pruned that year and then we didn't prune it this year and this is why. So we could get the history.
Correct.
We could understand that if there's a concern about a specific.
Absolutely, and we need to track our maintenance history throughout the city, and that's a main reason for keeping that is liability. within the city, because we need to know if a branch does fail or something fails, has an impact on a home, we can go, well, you know what, we did prune that tree in 2023 or whatever the last pruning may or may not be. So we keep very comprehensive records on when trees are pruned and maintained within the city.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm glad you said it, and I may be asking to sit down with you and look at some trees sometime soon.
Anytime.
But I'm sensitive to what Councilmember Ehlers was saying about native trees, and I've spoken with Mark about this as well, especially when we talk about oaks, and whether there's something whether there are unique strategies that we should be looking at with some of our native plants. I think we'd like to, I sense that we will be looking at that a little bit more in detail as we evolve the thought processes here at the city regarding native plants. And that might expand then into how do we manage them over time so that they're going to be the most successful and they're going to thrive. And it will probably be a different strategy than what we would typically use. And I'm just going to call out the leaf litter as the example where that's not a pruning, specifically pruning, but it's an overarching how do we care for our trees and the soil and the surrounding area in a manner that most benefits them thriving. I'm going to guess we don't really have any specific special treatment for natives as it stands right now, and maybe we can evolve in that direction. But based on facial expressions, maybe I'm wrong. Could you?
No, there's nothing specific right now in terms of pruning for natives versus ornamentals throughout the city at this time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be appropriate. And one thing that we're doing now is when you take a look at the urban forest, a whole lot of these trees are older. Right, and so we're managing an older system now, and it's taking a little bit of catch up at times. So when our newer trees are going in, and especially if we're planting new natives, et cetera, we can do structural pruning early on so that in the future, the city's not having to prune as much. So we're laying foundation now within these other programs with planting, young tree care, et cetera, so that we can avoid some of these issues that we run into now with some of the mature trees that were not properly maintained in the past.
All right, thank you. Yeah, informative, exactly, yeah.
So a couple of things. I was a little surprised to hear that you're not using Tree Tracker to keep records on prunings and other maintenance that is conducted.
Everything is maintained within Arbor Access because that allows West Coast arborists to update that on a daily basis when they're out there. And then we do quarterly, I believe it's John might be able to chime in on this. I think it's quarterly updates where it's pulled into the city so that we can keep that, but it's not all shown on the website. Is that correct?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. John Ugrub. Yeah, that's correct, Chris. Every quarter we do our GIS department and WCA's GIS team, they do a data share, do a data dump, and it goes into our CityWorks works management system. So in our GIS database, it goes in. But the tree tracker is a controlled, how would I say, visual. There's public facing sort of interface. So it doesn't have all the data that our working data would have that's available to the public. I hope that makes sense. I didn't articulate it well.
Sort of, and I'm okay with the idea that the information that we have on Tree Tracker is not as comprehensive. I would think that if we're paying for this service, that there might be more robust record keeping. West Coast Arborists, do you manage both park trees as well as? So every tree, you're contracted with both the Parks and Rec Department as well as Public Works?
Yes, that's correct. And I'm Mike Powell with West Coast Arborists. Thank you.
And so how are park trees maintained? They're not on the grid. So who decides which park trees are getting trimmed?
Park staff go through all of the parks and all of our assets each year to determine what the workload will be that year. So as you mentioned, we don't have a grid, but we do have discrete parks and facilities and streets that we do have. So each of our park and beach supervisors are arborists, and they go through and they inspect each of their areas to create the workload for West Coast arborists.
So you create a work order and then out it comes. And do we use photographs at all in any of this, like a before and after photograph?
We do identify when we see a problematic tree. We do document that via photo, corresponding email, and update the data to reflect evidence of a concern we identified when we were performing the work.
Any of the contracts that you guys have with other jurisdictions, do you use photographs in a more extensive way? Like every tree that you approach, there's a before picture, and then you say, does not need trimming, and then maybe an after picture after you've pruned it?
It's not super common to see that in public contracts. Some of the issues we've seen is the lighting, different, from depending on where you're taking the picture from. Hasn't been a super highly requested thing for us to do.
One of the things that has been brought to my attention is the condition of the palm trees around town. There are many palm trees that appear to be yellow and have, maybe need some fertilizer perhaps. I don't know what the process is for maintaining palm trees.
It's pretty much the same between Parks and Public Works Department. In terms of pruning for palm trees, each year we only go through, we do not prune palms for aesthetic reasons. We only prune to remove dead, dying, and diseased fronds from the trees. We were fertilizing for a couple of years, and it's kind of depending on budgetary constraints. Right now we have a lot of palm weevil, so we're trying to shift around to do removals in there. So it can shift, and it is also can be on a case-by-case basis, but we don't have a comprehensive program at this time where we're going out and fertilizing every palm in the city, because there's quite a bit.
It was pointed out to me there's a palm tree on the corner of the Parks and Rec Department that is pretty scrawny and maybe needs some trimming. The point that was made to me is that if we are a city that takes a lot of pride in our urban forest, our city hall might want to have the most beautiful trees anywhere. And so maybe somebody could take a look at that. I also am, because I ride my bike from Leucadia down Vulcan on my way to City Hall, those trees that are adjacent to the North County Transit District station that are owned by North County Transit District that are several dead and all scrawny need a lot of attention. So I don't know whether we need to do more to exert pressure on North County Transit District. Maybe Councilmember Hinsey can comment on that.
Yeah, we had somebody actually flag those very trees. She's a resident of the city, and so we've already forwarded the request to NCTD to take a look at replacing those ones. But that's only for that stretch between Encinitas Boulevard and City Hall. So if there are others, just let me know.
Yeah, no, those are the ones, and I wonder if there's a way that we should be taking responsibility for them so that they can be part of our program. I know it's another dozen trees or 24, whatever the number is, but I think that we're going to put a lot more focus on it. As I mentioned, Councilmember Schaefer and I wrote a report on the urban forest. She was a big fan of Dr. Seuss and wanted to be a Lorax, and we are fortunate to have plenty of Loraxes. I wonder if there would be any interest from any of my colleagues in joining me on a subcommittee to revisit that report and to look at how things have progressed since we wrote that and the departments adopted new procedures.
I will make my interest known, yes.
And Bruce, if you'd like to do it with Joy, that's fine too. I was there at the start, but I don't need to be involved.
Well, yeah, and I would be happy to do that, but I actually think the two of you or the two of us, either one, but I think the two of you, her professional, the native plant background, you with the history, I like that balance.
Okay, and it would be an ad hoc committee, and we would work with the Urban Forest Advisory Committee and make our conversations public in that way, see if we can get on some of their agendas, is how I would approach it. Thanks a lot for the report. I don't know if we need to vote on that. Do we need to vote on our ad hoc committee?
Mr. Mayor, your question was, can you form an ad hoc committee by vote
Yes.
now?
Yeah.
Or do you need a vote?
We do need a vote to form an ad hoc committee. The ad hoc committee formation of an ad hoc committee is not on the agenda, however.
Say that again?
Formation of an ad hoc committee is not on the agenda.
Okay.
This
Well,
is
then we'll bring it back
this is
on
an
the consent
information
item,
item.
because it should have been brought,
It
probably
should-
so that we
correct.
can give direction.
It's not an action item, it's an
Okay.
informational item.
So we'll catch up with that later. Okay, thank you all very much.
Excellent, thank you.
With that, we are through all the agenda items with the exception of 13, reports pursuant to AB 1234.
Let me quickly jump in and say that I'd like to report on 2 activities. One is the Cultural Tourism Committee, which I don't usually report on, and I'm not really sure if this is the appropriate place, but I just did want to let my colleagues and the public know that in the Cultural Tourism Committee, we are talking about economic development, tourism, the visitor center, and data collection to help support decisions in the future associated with economic development and the visitor center. My second report is the San Diego County Water Authority. I'll make it brief by just saying we're really in dire budget constraints. As everyone knows, recently people are not needing to buy water as much as they have been in the past, and it will drastically impact our budgeting this season. So I will report more as I have more, but shot across the bow is budgeting will be affected more than usual due to some constraints. Thank you.
I attended an Encina Wastewater Authority Policy Finance Subcommittee meeting. We reviewed the operations portion, not the capital, of the proposed 24-25 budget. The budget's already been reviewed by the member area managers, including our staff, and we approved it for adoption, the full budget adoption by the entire board.
I have no report.
Nothing to report.
I attended a special SANDAG meeting that was convened for the purpose of receiving the report of the independent auditor at SANDAG into the debacle that is the 125 tolling system. And it was pretty remarkable. And the saga continues. We will be having another conversation about it at our meeting on Friday. And there'll be some closed session discussion about the possibility of hiring independent investigators, maybe do forensic audits, look very closely at the procurement process, because it was clear fairly early on that the contractor, the winner of the RFP for the development of the software, was incompetent. And it just went on and on and on and on and on. They started hitting the contractor with liquidated damages, but the contractor didn't seem to care or didn't know how to solve the problem. But so the payments kept being made, and the liquidated damages kept adding up, but it's just an absolute mess. So we're still trying to sort through it. At the same time, we're going to do a closed session to do final interviews for the new CEO as well. So looking forward to all that on Friday. It's going to be a heck of a meeting. Assistant City Manager reports.
No reports.
City Attorney reports.
No report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And that leaves us with the City Clerk.
No report this evening.
No reports. Okay. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.